Chapter 571. Although Yang Guo had a headache due to Meng Ping's childish words, seeing him being pushed down, Yang was still glared at the BMW gangster and stepped forward to help Meng Ping up. However, Meng Ping had no intention of backing down. After he stood up, he pulled away Poplar Fruit's hand and scolded, "Your father is a deputy county magistrate. Do you think you can do whatever you want? If a prince breaks the law, a commoner will be punished as well." Meng Ping stepped forward and said with his head held high, "If you make a mistake, you will be punished as well." His voice wasn't loud, but it was loud and clear like a bell. Moreover, his fearless strides carried the heroic aura of "the rage of a gentleman causes blood to splatter everywhere." Finally, someone couldn't sit still in front of the Public Security Bureau. Lu Guoliang, who was mentioned by Meng Ping, hurriedly walked down from the office building. He saw the BMW gangster and blurted out, "Young Master Liang." However, Lu Guoliang was a cunning old fox. He didn't rush forward to deal with the dispute, but asked someone to clarify the situation. Actually, he didn't need to ask, as he knew that it was young Master Liang who was causing trouble. He asked because he wanted to know the background of the people who were confronting young Master Liang. After listening to his subordinate's explanation, Lu Guoliang frowned. This matter was really tricky. Poplar Fruit was so mysterious, and he was a foreigner driving an expensive Land Rover. No one knew where Poplar Fruit came from. Xiong Jisher, who was handcuffed to the chair, had his background figured out in half an hour. He was a local from a village, so he seemed easy to bully. However, when Lu Guoliang heard that Xiong Jisher was good at fighting, and that it took a few policemen to hold him down, his heart skipped a beat. He couldn't help but ask Xiong Jisher, "Little brother, which village are you from?" He spoke in Miao language to make Xiong Jisher lower his guard. Xiong Jisher's eyes were fixed on the outside, looking angry and unwilling. Hearing Lu Guoliang's question, he answered without hesitation, "Xiong family." As expected. Others might not know, but as the director of the Public Security Bureau of this small county, how could Lu Guoliang not know of Xiong Kehu's existence? Before Xiong Kehu joined the army, he was infamous in the area. When the soldiers came back, their murderous look made several people pee their pants when they walked on the streets. 30 years ago, Xiong Kehu's name could even stop children from crying at night. However, after Xiong Kehu returned to the mountain, he rarely left the mountain, and his influence slowly faded. However, Lu Guoliang was not as ignorant as the masses. He had some cases of civil disputes that told him that even though Xiong Kehu had returned to the garden and field residence, he was still the same god of death. At the end of the 80s, Xiong Kehu rushed to the county government alone and dragged the county magistrate to his village to seek justice for the Xiong village. In the mid-90s, there was a drought in Guishan province. Due to a dispute over a water source, the Xiong family got into a fight with 2 villages downstream. Xiong Kehu led the Miao people and killed twice their number of Han Chinese farmers. During the dispute, both sides suffered casualties, but the Han Chinese lost the most. Many of them had their tendons severed by Xiong Kehu. Although he did not kill them, severing their tendons meant that their hands were crippled. Even so, Xiong Kehu was not arrested. On one hand, it was because the mountains were high and the rivers were far away, and the villagers were poor, so no one dared to arrest him. On the other hand, Xiong Kehu's achievements in the army were too outstanding, and there were people who were careless about him. There were many cases of armed fights, but the Xiong village was never at a disadvantage. In the past 5 to 6 years, these cases almost never happened again. Moreover, the people of the Xiong village were more restrained and rarely caused trouble, so Lu Guoliang didn't think of Xiong Kehu for a long time. However, Lu Guoliang still had a headache whenever he heard the name of the Xiong village. He didn't want to go up against that hot-tempered and protective old man. The last one was Meng Ping. Although Meng Ping was only a deputy director of the Education Bureau, his name was well known in the small county government. Putting it this way, Meng Ping was a weirdo in the bureaucracy. With his stubborn and easily offending personality, Meng Ping could only be a teacher until his death. But who told him to have a good father? Teacher Meng had been a teacher his whole life. He used to teach in the county, but later went to the mountains. Teacher Meng didn't dare say that he had students all over the world, but the students he taught could be found in every corner of Guishan province. One of them was a high-ranking official in the provincial capital of Guishan province. He especially remembered Teacher Meng's kindness and helped Teacher Meng's family without sparing any effort. Meng Ping was promoted from a normal language teacher to a civil servant in the county's education bureau. Then he escorted Teacher Meng all the way until Teacher Meng passed away. That person came back to attend the memorial service and asked the county to give Meng Ping a compensation. Thus, there was the current deputy director Meng Ping. Although Meng Ping was usually too straightforward and offended many leaders, no one was willing to touch him. In the end, they just turned a blind eye. Why are they together? Lu Guoliang looked at the tense situation outside and had a headache. Young Master Liang, Deputy Director Meng, Aya, why are you arguing? It's really like the flood rushing against the Dragon King's temple. We're all on the same side. Calm down, calm down. Lu Guoliang didn't know how many rounds his thoughts, but he still pushed the door open and said with a smile. Who's on the same side with him? The BMW hoodlum said unhappily. Uncle Lu, you came? This guy even said that he wanted you to teach me a lesson. Also, these guys just hit me. Here, Captain Wu can help me testify. The BMW hoodlum pulled out a policeman with a bitter smile from the crowd and patted his shoulder. When Captain Wu heard Lu Guoliang's tone, he knew that his boss didn't want to help either side, and even wanted to make peace. Therefore, he secretly wanted to hide at the back, but he was still dragged out by young Master Liang without any explanation. Deputy Director Lu, hello. Meng Ping saluted him, neither servile nor overbearing. Then, in front of everyone, he started to criticize the policeman who had just left the team. Deputy Director Lu, I think that the police team needs to do some ideological work. Meng Ping said loudly, your subordinates were actually ordered by a playboy. Not only did they mediate the dispute unreasonably, but they also inverted black and white, and framed good people. Lu Guoliang's eyebrows twitched, and his smile froze. Although he had heard about it before, this was the first time he experienced Meng Ping's straightforwardness, and he couldn't take it. If it weren't for the fact that he had too many scruples, Lu Guoliang would have immediately changed his position to deal with Poplar Fruit and the others. Poplar Fruit wasn't stupid. He knew that although Meng Ping's words were straightforward, he had undoubtedly offended the deputy director in front of him. He finally couldn't take it anymore, and pulled Meng Ping aside. He softly advised, Uncle Meng, stop talking. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 572. Upholding Justice and Not Bending Over for Power. For the first time, Yang Gua actually had a trace of admiration for this short, balding man. Perhaps his words were shocking, or perhaps he didn't care about the consequences and only wanted to express his feelings, or perhaps he was really stupid and naive. But at this time, his back seemed to have become tall and lovable. However, Poplar Fruit couldn't let him continue speaking. Most of the time, telling the truth wasn't the best choice. Meng Ping's righteous lecture had pushed the matter to an irreversible abyss. The other party came to make peace, but you still scolded him? Seeing Poplar Fruit pull Meng Ping back, Lu Guoliang secretly wiped his sweat and said in his heart, thank the heavens, there's finally someone who is reasonable. However, just as this side was appeased, the other side was dissatisfied. That BMW hooligan called young Master Liang wasn't a kind person. He saw that Lu Guoliang was biased towards the other party and the anger in his heart rose. Uncle Liang, whose side are you on? Why are you helping an outsider? Young Master Liang complained in the official Miao language of the county. He didn't dare to speak to Lu Guoliang as unscrupulously as he did to Meng Ping. In his eyes, Meng Ping was just a small civil servant that he could casually step on, while Lu Guoliang was his father's left and right arm. Even if he was his father's son, if Lu Guoliang complained to his father would definitely deal with him first. At this time, Lu Guoliang had a big headache. He thought to himself, AI, what kind of weirdo am I encountering? Liang Shengtao was the most shrewd person Lu Guoliang had ever met. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was a cunning old fox. The previous county magistrates had disagreements with Liang Shangtao, and they were all later stripped of their positions and sent away with their tails between their legs. However, his son wasn't like him at all. He was impatient, liked to cause trouble, and didn't know how to observe people's expressions. Lu Guoliang had given him several looks, but he didn't pay attention to it at all. The country was ruined by you, the children of officials. Officials protect each other and bully the common people. Ugh. Meng Ping was being held back by Poplar Fruit. When he heard young Master Liang's words, he immediately broke free from Poplar Fruit as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He rushed up and pointed at young Master Liang's nose as he angrily cursed. Fortunately, Poplar Fruit reacted quickly and rushed forward to cover Meng Ping's mouth. It was undeniable that what Meng Ping said was the truth. However, it was absolutely irrational to recklessly engage in a war of words with others when one's strength was not strong enough to face them head-on. Now was not the time to sing a sad song of indignation and sacrifice my blood in the name of the Yellow Emperor. After being framed and sent to prison, Poplar Fruit had learned a lot. In this small county, he didn't have any connections like he did in Yongcheng. If he was sent to prison because of his connections, then he would be a fish on the chopping block. Although Poplar Fruit was gnashing his teeth in anger, in order to protect Meng Ping and the children behind him, he had to endure it. After today, he would slowly settle the score. Lu Guoliang also thought the same. He saw that young Master Liang's eyes were spitting fire after being pointed at and scolded. He knew that things weren't good. He quickly moved his body and hugged young Master Liang, who was about to throw a punch. When the boss moved, the policemen from the Public Security Bureau also cleverly rushed up. A few of them pulled and hugged young Master Liang's lackeys who were about to rush over to fight. Calm down, calm down. Because of inertia, young Master Liang's fist landed on Lu Guoliang's shoulder blade. Lu Guoliang, who had been neglecting training for a long time, grimaced in pain. However, he didn't care about the pain as he hugged and pushed young Master Liang to the side. Uncle Liang, why are you blocking me? Young Master Liang was so angry that his face was distorted. He flew into a rage and roared, "Let go of me, I want to beat that grandson to death. He actually dared to scold me." Liang Huasheng. Lu Guoliang was finally angry. He lowered his voice and grabbed young Master Liang's shoulder. Lu Guoliang's frame was bigger than the short and thin young Master Liang. The way he grabbed young Master Liang was like an eagle grabbing a chick. Young Master Liang finally calmed down. His eyes flashed with a trace of fear and then it turned into a look of dissatisfaction. Young Master Liang. Because Lu Guoliang was angry, he was panting heavily. However, he changed back to how he addressed young Master Liang. "Can you listen to me?" "Uncle Liang, please speak." Young Master Liang didn't dare to anger someone that even his father thought highly of. He suppressed the unhappiness in his heart and gritted his teeth as he said angrily, "Do you know who the other party is?" Lu Guoliang turned around and hinted with his eyes. "Who is he? Isn't he just a small deputy director of the Education Bureau? My dad can kick him out of office any time." Young Master Liang said with disdain. "That's what you saw." Lu Guoliang sighed. He pulled young Master Liang's ear and whispered into his ear, "Do you know why I don't want you to have a conflict with Meng Ping?" After Lu Guoliang explained Meng Ping's background, he patted young Master Liang's shoulder and smiled. "It's not that we are afraid of Meng Ping. After his father died, he was nothing. However, we still have to consider the face of the person behind him. It's not like we have a deep grudge against him. We don't have to fight to the death with him." Young Master Liang said unwillingly, "Are we just going to let it go like this? I don't like that bastard." "Of course I won't just let it go." Lu Guoliang smiled and said, "Although we can't kill him, we can still trip him up in the future. I don't believe that those trivial matters will disturb the great god behind him." Humph. Although revenge could be taken slowly, young Master Liang was still very unhappy. He gritted his teeth and looked at Meng Ping, who deserved a beating. Then, he pointed at Poplar Fruit and asked, "What about those people? Other than that Land Rover guy, Uncle Liang, You can't do anything to those bumpkins? I really can't do anything. Lu Guoliang thought of the terrifying old Meow Man and felt a headache coming on. He smiled bitterly and told young Master Liang about Xiong Kahu and the glorious deeds of the Xiong family. He even told young Master Liang about Xiong Kahu's lawless intrusion into the county government. What he meant was that if young Master Liang dared to touch the county government, he might be caught and sent to the Miao village to be tortured. F***CK. Why am I so unlucky today? Young Master Liang was so angry that he kicked the flower bed next to him and said, "Anyway, you mean that I deserve to be beaten up?" Young Master Liang, revenge is a dish best served cold. Lu Guoliang pulled young Master Liang and persuaded him, "Let's endure it today and not have a direct confrontation. After I investigate their background, I will find a way to vent your anger for you. I won't let any of them go." Really? Young Master Liang's eyes lit up. He couldn't help but look at the Meow woman who was dressed simply but had a graceful figure. He also looked at Poplar Fruit's giant beast, that looked very exciting. He drooled and said, "Uncle Liang, you have to help me get that little B***TCH and that car." Okay. Lu Guoliang wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and nodded in a perfunctory manner. He smiled bitterly in his heart. I haven't even said what I can do to them, but he's already thinking about other people's things. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 573. Things went unexpectedly well. Poplar Fruit thought that no one would be able to leave today. Unexpectedly, after Lu Guoliang came out to deal with them, the BMW gangster also asked his men to drive away angrily. Xiong Jisher, who was handcuffed to the chair, was also released. In the end, things didn't get out of hand. In the evening, Poplar Fruit and the others couldn't go back to the mountain because it was already dark. They had to stay at Meng Ping's place for the night. In the car on the way to dinner, Poplar Fruit felt a little strange. Was this matter really solved so smoothly? However, Poplar Fruit didn't feel at ease. He felt that things were far from over. No matter what Poplar Fruit thought, the simple-minded children couldn't hold back their excitement and discussed loudly in the car. He is a big bad guy. Big bad guys are all big bad wolves. This childish voice naturally belonged to Kiki. She tried her best to turn her head and participate in the children's discussion. When I grow up, I want to be like Grandpa and beat the big bad guy to death. What made people speechless was that the child who said that was actually the little girl from the Hmong village who was less than 10 years old and was in Xiong Xiaolin's arms. She held her head high and looked so heroic that the little boy from the Hmong village who was even younger looked up at her with admiration. Kiki also wants to beat the bad guy. Kiki waved her small fist and shouted without showing any weakness. Do you know what kind of person is a bad guy? You still say you want to beat the bad guy? Poplar Fruit laughed and teased her while driving. Kiki knows. Kiki turned her head and looked at her father with her big, innocent eyes. She said seriously, Kiki saw it. That bad guy beat Uncle Fierce Baba. Who is Uncle Xiong Baba? The little boy from the Hmong village behind them asked with a confused look. It's Uncle Fierce Baba. Kiki loudly corrected him. In her impression, the one-track-minded Meng Ping was very fierce. When he argued with her father, his eyes looked like he wanted to eat people. Poplar Fruit was convulsing with laughter. Fortunately, Meng Ping drove his car over, so he didn't hear it. However, Poplar Fruit still stretched his right hand out to pinch Kiki's nose and smiled. Yang Luochi, you're not allowed to give others nicknames. No. My daughter, the most powerful and domineering Miao village girl in the back seat, suddenly became very serious. She sat in Sister Xiong Xiaolin's arms and poked her head out from the armrest. She asked in confusion, did that bad guy bully Sister Xiaolin? No. Kiki didn't see it from the front, so she waved her hand and explained seriously, Sister Xiaolin is standing behind Papa. The bad guy pushed Uncle Fierce Baba. Hey, Kiki. Poplar Fruit warned, but he couldn't help but laugh. Yes, the bad guy bullied Sister Xiaolin. My daughter said stubbornly. Yes, yes, I also saw him bully Sister Xiaolin. The little boy from Miao village was pushed into Xiong Jisher's arms by my daughter, but he still said weakly. This was strange. Kiki shook her head and looked in front of her in confusion. She thought for a long time, but she didn't see the bad guy touch Sister Xiaolin. Okay, stop quarreling. We're here. Get ready to get off. Yang Guo saw that Meng Ping's car, who was leading the way, had its turn signal on. Then, he turned into a nearby restaurant and followed. Brother Yang, I'm sorry. After getting off the car, Xiong Jishe finally found some time. He walked to Poplar Fruit, who was unfastening Kiki's seat belt, and said embarrassedly, "Why are you apologizing to me?" Poplar Fruit looked back at him strangely and asked, "It's all my fault. I hit him impulsively." Xiong Jisher's face was full of guilt, and he said in a low voice, "I've brought trouble to everyone." Jisher. Poplar Fruit picked up Kiki, put one hand on the car door, looked at Xiong Jisher's eyes seriously, and said, "It's not your turn to apologize. You've done the right thing in this matter. But, if I didn't hit him, we wouldn't have been taken to the Public Security Bureau." Xiong Jisher was still upset, and he said with his head lowered, "It's not your fault." Poplar Fruit laughed. Bang. He closed the car door and said loudly, "Not to mention you, if I was there, I would have made the same choice as you. Hit him first." At this point, Yang Guo was prepared to explode with a string of curses. F*CK, let's talk after we fight. However, he swallowed the two words that were about to come out of his mouth, because he remembered that Kiki was still in his arms. "Papa, hit the bad guy." Kiki waved her little fist and said cheerfully, "Poplar Fruit was right. If he was there, he would have beaten that pervert." Tolerance meant that he didn't want to haggle over every detail, but it didn't mean that he had to swallow his anger when the other party bullied him. After this afternoon's farce, the distance between Poplar Fruit and Meng Ping was much closer. Even Kiki began to feel that Uncle Fierce, in fact, at Meng Ping's age, Kiki could even call him Grandpa, was a little bit affectionate. However, affectionate didn't mean eager. Tonight's dinner atmosphere was very strange. Meng Ping was still brooding over that matter. With his character, he wouldn't be able to eat if he didn't say a few words. Therefore, this dinner almost became Meng Ping's personal talk show. He had been chattering non-stop to spread his upright outlook on the world and life to everyone. Xiong Jishe was relatively silent. He had been eating with his head down, while the other children were sitting on the other side. They were not interested in these topics at all. They were all chattering about their own little world. Therefore, the difficult task of accompanying Meng Ping fell on Yang Guo's shoulders. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he smiled stiffly. His head was also a little dizzy after being bombarded by Meng Ping. He felt as if he had just escaped from heaven for less than 2 hours and then fell back into hell. After dinner, Poplar Fruit and Meng Ping fought to pay the bill. In terms of money, Meng Ping definitely couldn't compare to Poplar Fruit. Moreover, Poplar Fruit had a legitimate reason to pay for this meal. "Uncle Meng, I'll have to trouble you to come out and help today. This meal should be my treat." However, Meng Ping held on to the bill, as if he wouldn't give up. He pushed Poplar Fruit away and said angrily, "Get out of my way." "What treat? If you have money, keep it for the children to go to school." Naturally, he wasn't referring to Kiki when he said to go to school. However, Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw Meng Ping's angry look. He really didn't understand why he was so serious about paying the bill. In the end, Poplar Fruit let go. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to, asterisk. Chapter 574. After returning to the mountain the next day, Xiong Kahu heard about the incident from Xiong Jishe. Later, he called Poplar Fruit over to ask about the situation. Then, there was nothing else. Not only did Xiong Kahu not make any comments, but he also did not punish Xiong Jishe. It was as if the incident had not happened at all. However, it was said that after the old man went back, he he set up a whetstone and took the Miaodao in his house and rubbed it one by one. It was like the steps of the devil. Cough, it seemed that something had intruded. The two children from the Hmong village who came back from the county became popular all of a sudden. Their mothers had been waiting for their children to come back. However, before they could give them a hug in surprise, the two children were surrounded by a mighty army of children. Under the envious gaze of a group of peers, the two children held their heads high proudly and excitedly talked about what they had seen and heard in the city. Although their narration was not structured, it was this kind of story that kept jumping around that attracted the attention of the other children. Big cars, LED displays that were bigger than their stilt house, and fragrant snacks on the street. These were just common things in Poplar Fruit's eyes. However, after the two children talked about them one after another, they built a wonderful world in the minds of the children from the Hmong village, which was not inferior to the Candy City. When Poplar Fruit continued to tell stories and teach the children, their enthusiasm in answering questions surprised Poplar Fruit. However, these were the effects of the follow-up, so they would not be repeated here. After returning to the mountain, Poplar Fruit's life returned to peace again. He enjoyed the joy of being a teacher in the army of children, and quietly prepared and waited at the edge of the mortal world. Now, he was waiting for Zhang Yujie's batch of equipment and the technical director of Poplar Fruit, Fat Dragon, to come. However, in the world outside the mountain, the undercurrents continued to surge. Duan Xueqing's side was relatively peaceful for the time being. She still lived in her own world, reading books, studying, and being a quiet beauty. The only change was that there was one more person in her world, a man who would only occasionally appear in the morning to drink tea and sit quietly with her. Liang Huaxing, the BMW gangster, had lost his face in the Public Security Bureau. After returning, he did not let it go at all. With his narrow-mindedness, he called Lu Guoliang early the next morning and urged the County Public Security Bureau director to help him vent his anger. Lu Guoliang, who originally thought that he could fool him, had no choice but to ask his men to investigate Poplar Fruit. The Miao people in the Xiong village were like a barrel of gunpowder. If they were provoked, they would explode at any time. When that time came, that old bastard would come with a knife. No matter who suffered first, Lu Guoliang as the director of the Public Security Army would not be able to bear the consequences. Meng Ping's background was too complicated. Furthermore, this fellow was an unreasonable person who could not be reasoned with. Unless they fought to the death with him, there was no way they could deal with him. However, Lu Guoliang wasn't that stupid to gamble his future with a nobody for a small matter. So, it seemed that Poplar Fruit was the only possible breakthrough. Although Poplar Fruit's Land Rover was intimidating, Lu Guoliang saw the Poplar Fruit's license plate. It was a car from Guangdong Province. There were too many rich people in Guangdong Province, unlike the poor Lidong County. Ordinary people there could still afford to buy luxury cars. So, Lu Guoliang planned to ask someone to check Poplar Fruit's license plate. If he was not too fierce, he could still be bullied in Lidong County. But he did not know that if he did not check, trouble would come. Lu Guoliang handed the license plate number to his secretary. That's right, not the secretary's secretary. A policewoman from the logistics department was going to check it out. Lu Guoliang felt that it was better to let his own people handle this kind of thing. Moreover, he could also take this opportunity to pat her perky and round butt. Looking at his sweetheart rolling her eyes at him and leaving, Lu Guoliang felt his heart itch. He muttered to himself, "Mother ****, I haven't played for a few days and she's already so slutty. I have to get a room tonight." Lu Guoliang thought that his sweetheart could handle this kind of small matter well, but he underestimated the IQ of his sweetheart. Through the Public Security Bureau's internal network, it was easy to find the information about Poplar Fruit's license plate. At the same time, the case of Poplar Fruit's capture of the child trafficking gang also popped up. Of course, considering the reputation of the Guangdong Province's police, as well as Wanjua's intention to cover it up, Poplar Fruit was only a minor victim in the case file. He appeared twice more than the others. If Lu Guoliang saw this case, he would wonder if there was any inside story behind it. Unfortunately, the person who was investigating this was his sweetheart. Her focus was not on Poplar Fruit at all. Seeing this case, a woman's desire to gossip took over. In order to have more things to talk about when chatting with her friends, she picked up the phone and called the Guangdong Province Police. Using the excuse of an investigation to inquire about some personal matters was also a common thing in the public security system. Little Me had done this many times before. But today, she used the name of Poplar Fruit, and the Guangdong Province Police on the other side of the phone happened to be the police who handled the case file. When the Guangdong Province Police heard that his sweetheart was investigating Poplar Fruit, he immediately paid attention. He remembered that when the director came over to ask about the case, he specifically mentioned Poplar Fruit's name and asked them to handle it in a low-key manner. Although he didn't know the relationship between Poplar Fruit and the director, he could see that there was a connection between the two. Therefore, the Guangdong Province Police chatted with the soft-voiced policewoman on the other side of the phone about the interesting parts of the case. At the same time, he was also quietly trying to get information from her. She was really a big-boobed, brainless woman. When his sweetheart was talking about it, she suddenly told him about the conflict between Poplar Fruit and the county magistrate's son yesterday. Later, the Guangdong Province Police naturally didn't dare to neglect, and quickly reported to the leader. However, after reporting to the leader, the director finally got the news, and then he had to contact He Wanjua, who often turned off his phone. It took a lot of time in between. Therefore, this was something that happened later. Let's stop here. In the end, his sweetheart didn't remember Poplar Fruit until it was almost time to get off work. She hurriedly reported to Lu Guoliang, a farmer. After he studied, he transferred his household registration to the city. At first glance, you can tell that he is not related. However, Lu Guoliang didn't know that this was just Poplar Fruit's background on the surface. Now, Poplar Fruit was no longer an ignorant person. Because of his lover's stupidity, Lu Guoliang, who had always been cautious, was destined to fall into Poplar Fruit's trap. Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations, greater than over equal to. Chapter 575. In the remote Hmong village, it was difficult to find any traces of modern technology other than the computer and mobile phone at hand. Poplar Fruit had been living there for a few days. If it was not for his interest in learning the double-handed Miaodao and his determination to do something good, he would have left Poplar Fruit a long time ago. Poplar Fruit was not the only one. Even Goldie was a little listless when it came to the mountain. In the beginning, it went out to play with Chi-Chi and ended up being bullied by the big dogs in the Hmong stockade village. Although this guy looked bigger than an ordinary Chinese rural dog, its actual age was obvious. Its strength was completely overshadowed by a few ugly big dogs. After a few pieces of its fur were bitten off, it was unwilling to go out anymore. Even if it went out, it would stick close to Poplar Fruit. Kiki was the happiest. Every day when she came back, she would tell her father about her experience that day. She chattered like a happy lark. She felt that it was too fun here. There were so many children accompanying her. There were many children in Guangzhou too. However, the tall buildings that were like a forest of steel and concrete, the tightly shut security doors, and the people's hearts could not provide a chance and space for children to chase and play together happily. Poplar Fruit had thought of sending Kiki to a kindergarten that was similar to a toddler class. He did not want her to stay at home and not have any contact with the outside world. However, after coming to the Hmong village that was like going back a few decades, Kiki had the best opportunity to learn how to communicate with people. The children in the Hmong village were free-range. Almost all of their fathers went to the city to work. Their mothers were busy with housework and some farm work. They did not have time to take care of them. Unlike Kiki, who was pampered by her father since she was young. It was common to see some 2- or 3-year-old children running around outside barefoot without wearing pants. It was also common to see some children falling on the ground and scraping their knees. However, they still did not cry or scream. They patted their clothes and got up on their own. These were things that the parents and children in the city could not do. After a few days of training, Kiki's courage had increased. In the past, Kiki was shy and didn't dare to open her mouth when facing strange children. Now, she could take the initiative to greet others. Not only that, today, Poplar Fruit was drinking meow tea with Xiong Jiwoo in the lobby while talking about Xiong Xiaolin going to the junior high school in the county next semester. Then, he saw Kiki running in, and behind her were two children who were less than 5 years old. Papa. Fifth uncle. Seeing Poplar Fruit and the others sitting in the hall, Kiki obediently bowed and greeted them. This was Poplar Fruit's request. Kiki was growing up, and Poplar Fruit felt that it was time to teach her some etiquette. She couldn't sneak out to play without saying a word like last time. "Why are your pants so dirty?" Poplar Fruit waved his daughter over and asked while rubbing her little head with a smile. Then, he helped her tie her double ponytails again. Dirty. Kiki looked down nervously and saw some mud splashed on the legs of her small jeans. The little girl was so cute that she cried out and squatted down to wipe it with her chubby little hands, but she couldn't wipe it off. Okay, go play. Papa will help you wash it at night." Poplar Fruit smiled and patted her little butt. Kiki came back with her friends to play. Poplar Fruit knew what she was going to do. She was going to show off her toys. Poplar Fruit put a few of Kiki's toys in the suitcase because he was worried that she would be bored on the mountain. As a result, she didn't touch those toys after she went up the mountain. There were too many new things in the Hmong village that her eyes couldn't take in. However, to the children in the mountains, Chi-Chi's toys were mystical items that they longed for but could not see. It was as if they were really magical. There were toy cars that could sing, unicorn dolls that could glow, and so on. They were simply too fascinating. Yesterday, Poplar Fruit found that Kiki had traded one of her toys. It wasn't really a trade. Kiki gave it to a child. Then, the child ran home and brought a small hat made of flowers and rattan for Kiki. In terms of value, Poplar Fruit spent 500 yuan to buy the toy. It was a loss to exchange it for a small hat. However, Poplar Fruit didn't blame Kiki. Instead, he praised her for being kind and knowing how to share. Sometimes, money couldn't buy happiness. How could it not be worth exchanging a toy for 500 yuan for a beautiful hat that made Kiki happy for several days? After chatting with Xiong Jiwoo for a while, Poplar Fruit found that the little guys didn't move. He was still a little worried, so he got up and went upstairs to take a look. Just as he went up the stairs, before he reached the window of his room, Poplar Fruit heard Wang Dochui's classic dialogue, "I never thought that I would still." So he was watching a video on the computer. Poplar Fruit suddenly understood. He didn't say anything, but tiptoed to the door and peeked out. 3 pairs of feet came into view. One pair was white and tender, which obviously belonged to Kiki. On both sides of her, there was a pair of slightly dark feet. These little fellows actually ran to the bed to play. Poplar Fruit had a headache because the little guy's feet were dirty. Except for Kiki, the other children didn't wear shoes, so the mud stuck to the soles of their feet fell on the bed. "It's okay. It's a wooden bed. I'll wipe it later." Poplar Fruit had to comfort himself. "Kiki, what are they talking about?" Although the wonderful performance of Baiku and the others on the computer made the little guys laugh, for the children of Hmong village who were less than 5 years old, Mandarin was still a little difficult to understand. It was as if they were watching a mime show. They laughed and laughed, but still asked Kiki to translate. To Poplar Fruit's surprise, Kiki acted as a translator. Of course, the level of the little translator was not good enough. She couldn't keep up with the rhythm of Baiku's words in the video. She often missed 3 or 4 sentences when she translated a sentence. Stop making noise," Kiki called out in a childish voice. "I'm going to appear." Hearing what she said, the little friends quieted down. They stared with their eyes wide open, as if they were going to gouge out the eyes of the character in the computer. Poplar Fruit grinned. He now understood that the main purpose of Kiki letting the little friends watch the video was to let them see her appear on screen. Look. Kiki suddenly pointed at the computer and shouted happily. However, the time that Kiki appeared in the video was too short. There were only 2 or 3 seconds left after the editing. Before they could watch it, the image flashed by. Rewind. Kiki wiggled her little butt as she got up. She sat in front of the computer and pressed the left rewind button to rewind the video. This time, everyone could see clearly that Chi-Chi's appearance with her 2 spiky hairpins and the universe bracelet was just too adorable. Although he had seen it countless times, Poplar Fruit could not help but move closer. Feeling that there was someone behind her, Kiki subconsciously turned her head to look. "Woo!" Kiki cried out shyly as she was showing off that she was discovered. She jumped from the bed into her father's arms and dove into his arms like an ostrich. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 576. Phew, phew. It's not easy. Poplar Fruit gently put down the somewhat exaggerated Meowdow in his hand, patted some of the wood shavings scattered on the ground, shook his head and sighed. Finally, it was a success. Looking at the wood carving in his hand, although it was only a semi-finished product, and there were still some slightly prickly wood stubble at the corners, it did not prevent Poplar Fruit from appreciating it with an artistic eye. It was really not easy. Poplar Fruit did not know that he had spent so much effort to successfully carve a seemingly simple wood carving. If he counted, it took Poplar Fruit 6 days. Yesterday, Poplar Fruit was so anxious that he stayed up until midnight. How could he not be anxious? It was Zhang Yujie's birthday in 2 or 3 days. Poplar Fruit had to send it to Zhang Yujie today, or she would not receive it on her birthday. He had to polish it quickly. Poplar Fruit took out 2 pieces of sandpaper, one thick and one thin, and sat back on the small stool, rubbing his masterpiece against the slightly slanting morning sun. At this time, Kiki ran back to ask her father for water. The little girl held a milk bottle and drank water, and then her eyes were still looking at the movements of her father's hands. This made Poplar Fruit's hands, which were constantly rubbing, shake. He thought to himself, "Oh no, Kiki won't take a fancy to it again, will she?" Kiki had asked for his first work and the next several works. Poplar Fruit also found that the little girl secretly hid under the bed. It seemed to be very hidden, and was reluctant to show it to other friends. This time, Poplar Fruit's work was several grades better than the previous ones, Poplar Fruit believed. If Kiki took a fancy to it and stuck to it like a sticky candy, Poplar Fruit would not be able to snatch it from Kiki's hands. What about Zhang Yujie's birthday present? Papa. Kiki's clear and melodious voice sounded sweetly. Poplar Fruit could guess what she was going to say. Is it for Kiki? It's so cute. No, it's not for Kiki. Poplar Fruit quickly denied. Why? Why not for Kiki? Kiki looked up at her father pitifully, and her big watery eyes seemed to be able to speak. Did Kiki do something wrong? This is for your Aunt Zhang Yujie's gift. You've already taken several. Can you give one to Aunt Zhang Yujie? Poplar Fruit forced himself to persuade her. He had to be very careful with his words, otherwise Kiki would cry in front of him. Kiki pouted. She seemed to be struggling in her heart. After a while, under her father's perturbed expression, she finally nodded and said regretfully, "Well, I'll give this to Aunt." Really? Poplar Fruit himself could not believe his ears. It was not until he saw Kiki's affirmative eyes that Poplar Fruit was sure that Kiki was reluctantly willing to part with her treasure. Although she was very reluctant, Kiki still gave up the wood carving. There were many reasons for this. For example, Kiki did have a lot of collections. However, the most important reason was that Zhang Yujie still had a high position in her heart. That auntie who had bought her a lot of toys that she liked, Chi-Chi would not snatch her present. Kiki, who was drinking water at the side, leaned her soft little body into her father's arms. While watching her father polish the wood carving, she asked curiously, "Papa, is Aunt coming?" "No, she's in the capital. Why would she come?" "Later, Papa will go down the mountain and send it to her." Poplar Fruit answered casually. "Speak of the devil." Poplar Fruit's mobile phone on the chair to the side suddenly rang. Poplar Fruit's Thumbelina, Kiki, immediately ran over happily to help her father get it. It was Zhang Yujie calling. "Poplar Fruit, the delivery driver has arrived at the foot of the mountain. Hurry up and pick him up." As soon as the call was connected, Zhang Yujie's happy voice came from the receiver. "He's here? Why didn't he call me directly?" Poplar Fruit felt that it was troublesome to transfer to Zhang Yujie in the capital, and it could easily lead to communication misunderstandings. Oh, it doesn't matter. The driver found the convenience store according to the location map you gave him, so you can come down and pick him up directly, Zhang Yujie said with a smile. Poplar Fruit could hear some noise on her side. It seemed that she was on the street. Are you shopping? Poplar Fruit asked casually, and then said, Okay, I understand. I'll go down the mountain now. Ask the driver to wait for an hour. I'll be there soon. After putting down the phone, Kiki, who was next to him, became excited. She grabbed her father's arm and asked, Is Aunt coming? Kiki misses Aunt so much. However, Kiki was destined to be disappointed. Poplar Fruit rubbed Kiki's little head and said, Aunt didn't come. She just asked someone to send some things to Dad. Aunt is very busy now. She's still in the capital. However, Kiki still didn't believe it. Under her insistence, Poplar Fruit had to take her down the mountain. Because they had to move things, Poplar Fruit ran to Xiongkahu and asked a few young men in the village to go down the mountain with him. Sure. Poplar Fruit held Kiki in his arms and carried a small school bag, which contained the almost polished wood carving. While walking on the mountain road, he said to Xiong, You and the others move the computer and other things up the mountain first. I have to drive to the city to mail something. After getting along with each other for a period of time, Poplar Fruit was very assured of the honest Xiong. Because he had to mail something, he couldn't go back to the mountain directly, so he planned to let Xiong take full responsibility. I'm afraid that we don't know anything and will break the computer. Xiong suddenly became nervous. He had seen Yongguo's MacBook. That exquisite high-tech product looked expensive no matter how he looked at it. It's okay. Be careful. Don't drop it. Poplar Fruit comforted him. After you take it back, put it in the school first. I'll deal with it when I come back in the afternoon. Okay. As if he had taken on a more difficult task than blowing up a fort, Xiong whole face was tense. He clenched his fists and trembled slightly. Don't be nervous. Poplar Fruit smiled and patted him on the shoulder. It's not very expensive goods. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Along the way, Poplar Fruit comforted Xiong several times. Only then did he relax a little. Anyway, Poplar Fruit and the others talked, and more than an hour of mountain road was over in the blink of an eye. After turning a bend in the mountain road, they could see the snack shop at the foot of the mountain. From afar, Poplar Fruit glanced at a woman standing beside a van. She was graceful and valiant. Her long hair fluttered in the mountain wind. For a moment, she attracted the attention of many men, looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 577. He slammed on the brakes, and the young men of Xiong village behind him almost crashed into each other. However, Poplar Fruit didn't pay attention to the people behind him who were in a mess. He was already in a mess in the wind. Papa, you're lying. Auntie is here. Kiki's eyesight was as good as her father's. She also saw the woman standing outside and talking on the phone from a distance. She looked familiar. Wasn't she Zhang Yujie? Kiki's high-pitched scream wasn't scattered by the mountain wind. Instead, it followed the path of the wind and clearly entered the ears of Zhang Yujie, who was 180 meters away. Zhang Yujie had been hiding it and wanted to give Poplar Fruit a surprise. However, she had only come out to answer a phone call for more than an hour, and she had even bumped into Poplar Fruit. When she heard Kiki's voice, she turned around and stomped her feet regretfully. However, her psychological endurance was very strong. Seeing that there was no need to hide it anymore, Zhang Yujie walked to Poplar Fruit openly. She walked to Poplar Fruit's side and reached out to pinch Poplar Fruit's waist. Hiss! Although Poplar Fruit had rough skin and thick flesh, he couldn't help but gasp when the soft flesh on his waist was attacked. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, "Long time no see. We just met, and you gave me such a big gift?" Zhang Yujie stared at Poplar Fruit without showing any weakness and said in a very dissatisfied tone, "Who told you to make such an expression?" Zhang Yujie exaggerated the look of shock on Poplar Fruit's face just now, and then continued to blame, "Long time no see, is this how you are? Do you dislike me so much?" "It was really an unexpected disaster," Poplar Fruit said with a wry smile. "When did I dislike you? That was a surprise, okay? I didn't expect that you would actually come. But you shouldn't be so scared that you can't speak." Because there was someone behind them that she didn't know, Zhang Yujie lowered her voice and whispered in Poplar Fruit's ear, "Don't tell me that you found a mistress in this barren mountain? Are you worried that I will find out?" With that, Zhang Yujie giggled and put her hand on Poplar Fruit's shoulder. She didn't really think so. It was just a joke. Of course, if they weren't so close, Poplar Fruit and Zhang Yujie, they wouldn't make such a joke. Nonsense. Poplar Fruit looked at Zhang Yujie and scolded with a smile. Poplar Fruit didn't expect that Zhang Yujie would come over herself. He was actually quite embarrassed because he understood Zhang Yujie's feelings very well. Unfortunately, he already had someone in his heart, and they could only be friends. However, if Zhang Yujie suddenly came to Miao Village, it was very likely that their relationship would be dragged into ambiguity again. This was something that Poplar Fruit was very conflicted about. However, since she was here, Poplar Fruit wouldn't drive Zhang Yujie away. He could only secretly remind himself to keep a distance. However, Poplar Fruit didn't think that this distance could be maintained just because he wanted to. It was a good thing that Zhang Yujie came over. Poplar Fruit didn't have to go to the county to send her a gift. Therefore, Poplar Fruit deliberately hid his small school bag, and then carried the computer with the young men of Xiong Village who came with him. However, Poplar Fruit didn't expect that there was a little spy beside him. Walking on the mountain road, Kiki was held by Zhang Yujie. She talked with the ant about some interesting things that happened on the mountain. Then, like a little general who had made a meritorious service, she put her arms around Zhang Yujie's neck and said proudly, "Papa prepared a gift for you." Originally, it was Chi-Chi, but Chi-Chi gave it to Auntie Ah, third voice. Kiki sold it. Because the mountain road was narrow, Poplar Fruit, who was walking behind them, trembled when he heard this. Sure enough, Zhang Yujie immediately turned around and looked at Poplar Fruit with her beautiful red phoenix eyes. "You have a gift?" Zhang Yujie pretended to be cold, but she couldn't hide the joy in her heart. "Well, it's your birthday in a few days." Poplar Fruit saw that he couldn't hide it, so he simply said generously, "I prepared a gift for you. Dad made it himself." Kiki continued to reveal the big news. Zhang Yujie's mouth was almost raised to the sky, but she still deliberately pretended to be a queen and said domineeringly, When we get there, I want to check the goods. I don't want those that don't look good." They continued to walk to the mountain village, and soon, they arrived at the suspension bridge. Although Xiong Jisher and the others were carrying several bundled boxes in their hands, crossing the bridge was like walking on flat ground. There was no problem at all. However, Zhang Yujie refused to leave here. Before she reached the edge of the suspension bridge, she saw the cliff in the distance and her legs turned to jelly. She hugged a hanging branch tightly and said weakly, "Poplar Fruit, I don't dare." He never thought that Zhang Yujie would have acrophobia, and such a big reaction. In this situation, Poplar Fruit naturally couldn't force her to cross the bridge, especially when Kiki had to take care of her. Leaving Zhang Yujie where she was, Poplar Fruit first sent the things and Kiki to the opposite mountain peak in 2 batches. For this, Poplar Fruit spent a while comforting Kiki. "You and Uncle Jisher wait here for Dad. Dad will meet you when he brings Auntie here." After returning to the original mountain peak, Poplar Fruit walked to Zhang Yujie's side and looked at her with a smile. Zhang Yujie saw that he was watching the fun, and her heart was indescribably angry. With Poplar Fruit's help, she stood up unsteadily and shouted, "Ah! Are you gloating?" She reached out to pinch Poplar Fruit again, but her body was too weak to exert any strength. "Stop fooling around, let's go over." Poplar Fruit held back his laughter and helped Zhang Yujie slowly walk to the edge of the suspension bridge. "Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Before they set foot on the suspension bridge, Poplar Fruit's arm was tightly hugged. Zhang Yujie's whole body hung on Poplar Fruit's arm like a koala bear. The soft and fragrant touch almost made Poplar Fruit mess up again. My legs are weak, I can't walk. Zhang Yujie hugged Poplar Fruit's arm and sat on the ground limply. She weakly looked at Poplar Fruit and said pitifully, "How rare." Zhang Yujie, who had always been calm in the face of a landslide, actually had something that she was afraid of. Poplar Fruit found it funny and felt a sense of pity. He squatted down and looked at Zhang Yujie's eyes. Zhang Yujie blinked her eyes, as if she was begging. Her fresh and soft lips looked exceptionally seductive. But this couldn't go on. Poplar Fruit scratched his head and said, "I'll carry you over, close your eyes and don't look." This was also a way. Although there would be another intimate contact, in order to let Zhang Yujie, who was afraid of heights, cross this natural chasm, Poplar Fruit could only let Zhang Yujie climb up. Still very afraid, Zhang Yujie was like an octopus that hugged Poplar Fruit's neck and clamped onto Poplar Fruit's waist. She climbed onto his back and closed her eyes. Zhang Yujie could only rely on her other senses. However, even though she couldn't see, Poplar Fruit's broad back and the manly scent that was emitted from his sweat gave her the most reliable sense of security in the world. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to, asterisk. Chapter 578. Summer clothes were short and thin. It could be said that the two of them, N-words omitted, were almost N-words omitted. Poplar Fruit could feel Zhang Yujie, N-words omitted. What's worse, Zhang Yujie's head, N-words omitted, 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 N-words omitted. Although Poplar Fruit's ears were not sensitive, at this moment, his senses were magnified by several times. The N-words omitted here, and N-words omitted here, made Poplar Fruit instantly, N-words omitted here. Walking in the middle of the suspension bridge, the two of them almost fell into the bottomless abyss. Calm down. Poplar Fruit, how could you let your imagination run wild? Yujie trusts you so much, yet you still want to take advantage of her. Poplar Fruit scolded himself fiercely in his heart. It took him a lot of effort to suppress his surging emotions. Fortunately, Zhang Yujie was too frightened by the unfathomable cliff to move. Otherwise, the Poplar Fruit would not be able to withstand the heat she was feeling at this moment. She only needed to add fuel to the fire to the Poplar Fruit to make him unable to bear it. After calming down a little, Poplar Fruit felt an itch on his neck. However, as he needed to look in front, Poplar Fruit didn't look down until he got off the suspension bridge. It turned out that it was Zhang Yujie's hair that had reached his neck. Something's not right. Poplar Fruit placed Zhang Yujie down and patted Zhang Yujie's shoulder. "We're coming." Zhang Yujie opened her eyes at this time, but her legs were weak. Everyone waited for a while to let her recover. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Poplar Fruit carefully looked at Zhang Yujie. No wonder he kept feeling that she was different this time. The neat short hair was gone. Instead, it was replaced by soft and smooth long hair. It was not too long, just past her shoulders. The fine strands of hair still made her look very refreshing. This was very consistent with Zhang Yujie's temperament. No wonder Poplar Fruit had not noticed it. Sensing Poplar Fruit's gaze, Zhang Yujie's eyes flashed with a hint of joy. She charmingly winked at Poplar Fruit, and then her slender left hand brushed her left ear, tucking the disobedient hair behind her ear. Okay. I saw it all. Poplar Fruit looked at her showing off in amusement and said, "When did you start to have long hair?" Kiki, who was standing at the side pulling on her father's trousers, also looked curiously at Zhang Yujie. Her big eyes turned as if she thought of something. Then she raised her little hand high and shouted happily, "Papa, Papa." "I know." The two people were talking, but the little girl's voice forcibly squeezed in. Poplar Fruit smiled, patted her little head, and asked, "What do you know?" Kiki knows. Seeing that her father did not care, Kiki was not convinced. She put her hands on her small waist, raised her head and said angrily, "Kiki knows why Auntie has long hair." "Why?" Before Zhang Yujie could stop her, Poplar Fruit asked curiously. Zhang Yujie quickly grabbed Kiki's little arm, not wanting her to say it, but Kiki's little mouth was faster. She proudly said, "Because Papa likes long hair." Poplar Fruit stared blankly at Kiki, who was in Zhang Yujie's arms. He was confused and did not understand why Kiki said that. He remembered that he had never told anyone that he liked girls with long hair. Of course, Poplar Fruit had this tendency. He did have a special liking for girls with long hair, but it could not be said that he had a long hair fetish. When he first entered the university and chased after Lu Yunran still had standard short hair. Since Kiki had already exposed it, Zhang Yujie did not stop her. Kiki began to explain the cause and effect of the matter in a childish voice. When Auntie was in the capital, she asked Kiki if Papa liked girls with long hair. Of course Papa likes long hair. Kiki has long hair. So beautiful. So Auntie has long hair. After saying that, the little girl nodded seriously, as if to express affirmation of her own reasoning. Poplar Fruit stared blankly at Kiki. He knew that Kiki would not lie, but this reason was too far-fetched. Because of a child's joke, he had changed his image all this time? However, when Poplar Fruit moved his eyes from Kiki to Zhang Yujie's, his eyes finally met. Zhang Yujie did not deny, and did not try to hide, but bravely faced Poplar Fruit. Her eyes moved, and there was deep affection in them. Poplar Fruit stared blankly. He felt that the softest part of his heart had been hit. Moved, tangled, struggling. Too many complex emotions stirred in his mind, and Poplar Fruit was almost dizzy. This was not right. No matter how wooden Poplar Fruit was, he still felt a little uneasy. After a while he said, "What should I say to you? You used to be quite good-looking, but you had to listen to Kiki's nonsense." Poplar Fruit sighed deeply and said, "I don't really like girls with long hair, not only girls with long hair. Besides, you don't have to change because of me." However, Zhang Yujie did not intend to continue with Poplar Fruit's topic. She knew that the man in front of her was silly and cute when it came to feelings. He still had not accepted her, and if she let Poplar Fruit continue, it would be the rhythm of a showdown. "Do I not look good with long hair now?" Zhang Yujie scratched her hair with her hand and looked at Poplar Fruit's eyes with a smile. "Yes." Poplar Fruit was very honest. He sized her up and seriously commented, "You're more feminine than before. But, you used to be quite good too. That was you, but now you're forcing yourself to change a hairstyle that you don't like because of my opinion." Poplar Fruit anxiously explained. Kiki snuggled in Zhang Yujie's arms and looked at her father and auntie in confusion. She did not understand at all what the two of them were arguing about. "How do you know that I don't like it?" Zhang Yujie raised her head proudly. "I think it's quite good now. You said it yourself, I'm more feminine than before. I just like being feminine." Poplar Fruit did not know what to say this time. Instead, Zhang Yujie dragged him up and said in a nonchalant tone, "Let's go. It's just a change of hairstyle, what's there to be troubled about? Hurry up, I want to see the stilted house you've been living in for the past few days." Well, it was meaningless to be troubled. Poplar Fruit simply did not think about these troublesome things anymore. He smiled, picked up the box he was responsible for, and led everyone to the Hmong village. The mountain breeze blew, and a few strings of bell-like laughter echoed in the valley. "Kiki, don't you think Auntie is more beautiful now?" "Yes, yes, just like Kiki. You're so beautiful, so beautiful." Haha, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to, asterisk. Chapter 579. After arriving at the Hmong village, Zhang Yujie's capable and fashionable dress attracted the curious onlookers of the Hmong people, especially the children of the Hmong tribe. After tasting the sweetness of poplar fruit, they all flocked to Zhang Yujie and reached out their small hands to ask for delicious food. Zhang Yujie was embarrassed. She was not prepared for anything. When she came, she was only thinking about seeing poplar fruit happily, and there was no room for second thoughts in her mind. Fortunately, Xiong Kahu waved the bamboo pole to drive away the energetic children, and Zhang Yujie was able to calm down. Xiong Jiji and some other young adults carried the computer and other things to the school in the village first, and poplar fruit took Zhang Yujie to the place where they lived first. Because of the sudden arrival, Xiong Jiwu was not prepared. At this moment, Yi Nuzang and Xiong Xiaolin hurriedly tidied up the room next to poplar fruits. Their house was quite big, and there were many empty rooms, but there were some sundries in them. If they were not tidied up, they would not be able to live in them. Xiong Xiaolin wiped the windows and looked at Zhang Yujie enviously. Although Zhang Yujie's shoes were stained with a lot of mud, they were still clean and beautiful. She knew that she was going up the mountain, so she wore a slim-fit mountaineering outfit today. She had a pair of leggings, and the hem of her shirt was tucked in with a belt. She looked valiant and formidable. In Xiong Xiaolin's eyes, she was the image of a successful woman, and she was so handsome. Poplar Fruit carried Zhang Yujie's suitcase and put it in his room first, and Zhang Yujie followed behind with Kiki in her arms. "Kiki and I will stay here for a while." Poplar Fruit pointed to the wooden bed and laughed. "Remember to cover yourself with a quilt at night. Although it's summer, it will be very cold on the mountain at night." "You're really a monster." Zhang Yujie did not respond to Poplar Fruit's words, but poked Poplar Fruit's waist and muttered, "How come you can even speak Miao language?" When they first entered the village, many of the children of Miao village did not speak Mandarin. Zhang Yujie was a little overwhelmed by the Miao language, but fortunately, Poplar Fruit was beside her and translated for her. "Hey, I learned it after I came," Poplar Fruit said proudly. "So fast?" Zhang Yujie asked in surprise. "You've learned it in just a few days." "Monster, monster." "That's true. I don't dare to say anything else, but when it comes to language, there really isn't anything that can be difficult for me." Yonghua used her right thumb to wipe the bridge of her nose and said confidently, "You're bragging." It was Chi-Chi who learned it first. Kiki could not stand Poplar Fruit's proud look. She could not help but turn Aunt Zhang Yujie's face to herself, then pointed at her father and pouted. Zhang Yujie looked at the gloomy Yonghua and laughed out loud. She laughed so hard that her body trembled. After a simple tidying up, Poplar Fruit took Zhang Yujie to the school in the village. After all, Zhang Yujie's arrival was a surprise, and now they had to get down to business. At that moment, the school, which was built on a two-story building on a higher ground, was surrounded by the children of the Hmong village. If it were not for Xiong Jisha, who was commanding a few strong men to block the entrance, they would have rushed in. There were also a few curious villagers who came over to watch. They stuck their heads out and looked in through the window to see what was so magical. Inside the school, Xiong Kahu was already pacing back and forth. He was so anxious that he could not sit still. He did not understand the equipment, and did not dare to touch it. A Miao person even proposed to open the box to take a look, but he rejected it loudly. Xiong Kahu was afraid that he would break the things that the children would use for lessons in the future. Seeing Poplar Fruit come in, Xiong Kahu glanced at Zhang Yujie and nodded as a greeting. Then, he did not wait for Poplar Fruit to be long-winded and pulled him to quickly pack the things up. Xiong Kahu went outside to take a look, then came back to Poplar Fruit and asked curiously, why aren't you moving? Hey, master, don't walk around. Poplar Fruit did not know whether to laugh or cry. He pointed at the stool and asked Xiong to sit down, then said, "Aren't I reading the manual? I'll understand how to do it after reading it." If it were other computers, Poplar Fruit could just get started since they were all the same anyway. However, the Comet System computers that Zhang Yujie bought were new things. Poplar Fruit did not know if there would be anything special about them, so he first read the manual before assembling them. I didn't bring Kai Si Min with me this time. Zhang Yujie squatted beside Poplar Fruit and helped him carry the power cord and plastic packaging film in the box. If you read it, then we'll place a big order and ask him to be responsible for assembling everything. Poplar Fruit nodded. He quickly finished reading the few pages of the manual. Although he did not understand a lot of the circuits, it did not stop him from memorizing them all. It turned out that this computer was even simpler than the ones they usually used. Poplar Fruit first unpacked the display screen that Zhang Yujie bought and placed it on an empty table. Xiong saw it and could not sit still. He walked over and looked at it, afraid that the display screen would not be stable and fall off the table. Next was the power cord and the adapter. Because there were no electrical appliances in the school before, even the hot water was brought by the children from home, it took a long time to find a plug in the corner. Fortunately, Yang Gua had brought her CRT over. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to plug into the computer if she plugged in the display. Even so, the table for debugging the computer had to be moved to the other side. Sigh, if I had known, I would have brought a few more plugs. Zhang Yujie said with some annoyance. She had lived in a big city since she was young, and there were plugs everywhere in her room. How could she have thought of buying a plug? It's okay, we'll go to the county to buy one tomorrow. Poplar Fruit smiled as he comforted Zhang Yujie. Moreover, Fat Dragon should be arriving tomorrow. When they went to pick him up, it would not be too difficult to buy the plug. Although there were many twists and turns, the computer could be booted up immediately after it was connected to the power source. It was worth mentioning that, just as Zhang Yujie said before, this computer did not have a main computer. Kai Si Min put the main computer inside the keyboard. Although the keyboard looked a little bloated, it was not too thick. At most, it could be considered as a normal keyboard with 2 books. This showed the advantage of the Comet system. It was too light. All the parts were small, and compared to a mobile phone, it was definitely too much. However, compared to a computer, it was the difference between a J-10 and a Boeing. It's booting up. Poplar Fruit looked at the display screen with hope. It was not the familiar Windows interface, nor was it like an Apple computer. Instead, it was a simple animation of a comet passing by and coming back. However, what surprised Poplar Fruit was that the booting speed was very fast. It only took 20 seconds to boot up. Just that, looking at the completely unfamiliar system behind, Poplar Fruit was stunned. How was he going to play this? Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to, asterisk. Chapter 580. On this mountain with extremely simple living facilities, Zhang Yujie felt very uncomfortable. During the meal, the sour fish in the big bowl looked black and had a layer of chili oil floating on it. Zhang Yujie also saw Xiong Xiaofeng licking her chopsticks and putting them in the bowl to pick. She had no appetite at all. In the end, Poplar Fruit put down his chopsticks and went to make her a light fried pork with pickled vegetables. Zhang Yujie enjoyed the same special treatment as Kiki. Next was the room, which was not bad. The window was bright, and one could see the green mountains when one walked out. But it was a little simple inside. The bed was made of wood, and the quilt looked very old, exuding a strange smell. Zhang Yujie refused to use it, so Poplar Fruit had to exchange his own for hers. Finally, there was a shower. There was no comfortable shower head, so to take a shower, Poplar Fruit had to help her carry 2 buckets of spring water. Fortunately, the weather was hot, and the cold shower was comfortable, so there was no need to bother boiling water. The bathroom was also a small wooden house next to the wooden house. It was airy, and Zhang Yujie felt uncomfortable. After taking a shower, Zhang Yujie carried her changed clothes to Poplar Fruit's room and asked, "Where's the washing machine?" Poplar Fruit looked up and saw a girl with a red face standing in front of him. Poplar Fruit could not help but be stunned. She was really different. In the past, Zhang Yujie looked like a tomboy with short hair. Although her body was hot, her attractiveness was limited. Now that she had long hair, the whole person looked full of charm. Her long moist hair was slightly curled and spread out, and the fair skin on her neck seemed to be moist. Her delicate collarbone, smooth skin, and proud curves wrapped in the round neck t-shirt all showed the most seductive posture of a woman. Seeing Poplar Fruit's fiery gaze, Zhang Yujie was happy instead of angry. However, Poplar Fruit quickly looked away, not daring to look directly at Zhang Yujie. That was because he saw a pink strap hanging from the pile of clothes in Zhang Yujie's arms. There was no mistaking it. It was a bra strap. "There's no washing machine. You can only wash them by hand," Poplar Fruit said with a smile. "Don't expect a washing machine or a refrigerator here." "Ah!" Zhang Yujie wailed and walked into Poplar Fruit's line of sight. She looked at him and asked, "What should I do?" Poplar Fruit scratched his head and said, "Wash it by hand." "But I don't know how to wash." Zhang Yujie bashfully nudged Poplar Fruit with her shoulder and said, "Can you help me wash it?" What she said after that was sweet and greasy, not like Zhang Yujie's original style. Poplar Fruit should have had goosebumps, but when he saw Zhang Yujie's feminine look after changing her hair, his heart couldn't help but waver. But how could he agree to this request? Zhang Yujie's clothes had underwear. Thinking of her pink strap, Poplar Fruit felt a little hot in his head. "You don't want to?" Zhang Yujie saw that he didn't say anything, so she nudged him again and said unhappily, "You helped me wash it before. You can't deny it." Of course, Poplar Fruit still remembered. That was last year. And the scene that he shouldn't have seen the next day was still lingering in Poplar Fruit's mind. Poplar Fruit smiled bitterly and said, "But, no buts." Zhang Yujie directly blocked Poplar Fruit's way of retreat and put her hand on Poplar Fruit's waist. She threatened him with her actions and said sweetly, "Okay? I'm so tired today. I want to sleep." At this time, Kiki, who was dozing off at the side, got up from the bed. She kicked off the small quilt and waved at Zhang Yujie. "Auntie, can you accompany Kiki to sleep?" Okay. Zhang Yujie smiled until her eyes turned into crescents. She immediately stuffed the clothes into Poplar Fruit's arms and climbed onto the big bed with a smile. Then she rolled together with Kiki. Auntie, you're so heavy," Kiki shouted. "Kiki, you're the heavy one. Come, let Auntie give you a kiss and a hug," Zhang Yujie also shouted. "Wow, Auntie, you smell so good." Kiki's voice was muffled, as if her little head was blocked. Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry looking at them. He gloomily held the clothes that Zhang Yujie shamelessly stuffed into his hands. However, as Kiki said, Zhang Yujie's clothes also seemed to exude her body fragrance. It was also warm, as if it was just taken off from her body. Poplar Fruit's heart couldn't help but ripple. It seemed that Zhang Yujie didn't intend to wash her own clothes. With a sigh, Yang Guo had no choice but to take her clothes and go downstairs. Washing clothes alone is a very boring thing, but a man washing a woman's clothes, especially a beautiful woman's clothes, including the most private underwear, is a good thing that is painful but happy. How much charm and gentleness is in this? There is no need to go into details. I know, Poplar Fruit knows, that's enough. In fact, when Zhang Yujie stuffed all the clothes into Poplar Fruit's arms, her face also turned red. Although she was usually carefree like a tomboy, but in reality, Zhang Yujie is still a young lady who hasn't done anything. In order to cover up her shyness, Zhang Yujie ran to the bed and played with Kiki. Until Poplar Fruit left, she dared to raise her head and peek quietly. However, Zhang Yujie was really tired. The fatigue of the journey, plus the tossing of the day, Zhang Yujie and Kiki played with each other. In the end, the two actually fell asleep. When Poplar Fruit came back from drying the clothes, it was only 8 o'clock. He saw Zhang Yujie and Kiki sleeping soundly on the bed, and he couldn't bear to disturb them. Zhang Yujie often took over the nest. Poplar Fruit was mentally prepared, so he smiled and covered Zhang Yujie and Kiki with a mosquito net and quilt. Then he left and went to the room that originally belonged to Zhang Yujie. After playing on the computer for a while, Poplar Fruit's cell phone vibrated. At this time, it should be Bei calling. Poplar Fruit picked up the cell phone and looked at the lit screen in a daze. What should I do? There is a girl next door who clearly confessed to me. After Fong Bei asked him to do some self-reflection, Poplar Fruit understood his own thoughts. First of all, the girl he loved was indeed Fong Bei, and Zhang Yujie, it couldn't be considered love. It could only be said that it was an attraction between friends of the opposite sex. However, recently, there was a lot of touching. This made Poplar Fruit a little scared. Secondly, the wife he wanted to marry and the stepmother he wanted to find for Kiki. So far, Poplar Fruit only had Fong Bei in his mind. However, seeing Zhang Yujie's continuous affection and sincerity, Poplar Fruit couldn't bear it. The most important thing now was whether he should tell Fong Bei about Zhang Yujie coming over. Since knowing Fong Bei, Poplar Fruit had been very serious about this relationship. Not to mention lying, he didn't even have this thought. However, in today's matter, Poplar Fruit really had a difficult choice. Perhaps, sometimes a white lie was a better choice? Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations, greater than over equal to, asterisk. Chapter 581. The Comet system looked a bit like a mobile phone system. It was a little strange to use. It used the mouse and keyboard to control the program. Sometimes, due to the logic conflicts, Poplar Fruit was confused. For example, clicking the right mouse button would bring up the menu, and double-clicking the left mouse button would open the program. But on the Comet system, he only needed to click the left mouse button to open the program, and clicking the right mouse button would return him to the desktop. What made Poplar Fruit feel even more helpless was that he needed to long press the left mouse button to call up the corresponding system menu. When he first started fiddling with it, Poplar Fruit often returned to the desktop and accidentally opened programs that he didn't want to open. After finally understanding the operating logic of the system, Poplar Fruit realized that there wasn't much software in the system. It seemed that Kai Si-min also understood that the computer's configuration was too low to handle complicated work, so she didn't install any games or software in it. So far, the only software that Poplar Fruit could find was the WPS3P set that Kai Si-min had transplanted herself, as well as the browser, QQ, and music player software. It was so simple that it was crude. This made Poplar Fruit doubt its practicality. Although it could meet the minimum requirements for people to chat online, it didn't even have a video player. How was Poplar Fruit going to play videos for the children? Luckily, Poplar Fruit had the foresight to summon his own computer expert, Fat Dragon. It was best to leave these professional tests to the professionals. Fat Dragon had already taken the train yesterday morning, and would probably arrive at the city's train station in the afternoon. Poplar Fruit would pick him up then. But before that, the computers were only stored in the school. Poplar Fruit had no interest in fiddling with them. Xiong Kahu didn't care as much as Poplar Fruit. He valued these strange-looking machines very much. For the old man, even though he didn't understand, he had already determined that these machines were the hope of the children in the village to leave the mountains. Therefore, last night, Xiong Kahu had moved the bedding to the school. He was worried about others and wanted to guard it himself. Early in the morning, Poplar Fruit was practicing his swordsmanship on the mountain. He didn't see Xiong Kahu come up until 6 o'clock. He thought that something had happened to his master. Poplar Fruit anxiously ran back to the village. It was only at the entrance of the school that he saw Xiong Kahu calmly sitting on a small stool drinking tea. "You're here." Xiong Kahu waved his hand and said with a smile, "Come and have some tea." Poplar Fruit was speechless as he said, "I'm not drinking anymore. I still have to go back and take care of my child. Master, why didn't you come up the mountain today?" "You gave me a fright." I was worried that something might have happened to you while you were sleeping outside. I forgot to tell you, hee. Xiong Kahu didn't feel guilty at all. He said casually, "Don't worry. When I was fighting in the southwest jungle, I was fine even if I slept in the mud. How can it be the same as when you were young?" Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "You can't do this. I'm going to the city to pick someone up today. Do you want to buy a big lock? A lock can only guard against a gentleman, not a villain." Xiong Kahu raised his eyes and said, "Let's do this first. I'll think of something else." Unable to persuade him, Poplar Fruit could only go back with his saber. They slept very early last night. When Poplar Fruit came back, Zhang Yujie was already tossing and turning in bed. Kiki was also barefooted and jumping on the bed. The two of them were very noisy. "How did you sleep last night?" Poplar Fruit walked in and asked with a smile. "Ha, yawn." Zhang Yujie didn't care about Poplar Fruit at all. Lying on the bed, she stretched her body without caring about her image. Under the thin t-shirt, her curves were exquisite. Poplar Fruit couldn't take his eyes off her. "I haven't slept so well in a long time," Zhang Yujie murmured. "I've never seen an official's son work as hard as you." Poplar Fruit twirled his saber, changed the Meow Dao from a forward grip to a reverse grip, and then prepared to put it back on the top of the cabinet. "Hey, wait. Let me see." Zhang Yujie suddenly got up from the bed and shouted. Poplar Fruit thought that she was curious about the Meow Dao in his hand, so he turned around and handed it to her. In the end, Zhang Yujie didn't take it. Instead, she looked at Poplar Fruit with shining eyes, as if she was looking at a rare animal. Poplar Fruit felt a little uncomfortable. He asked speechlessly, "What are you looking at?" "I'm looking at you." Zhang Yujie crawled over. She knelt on the bed, straightened her upper body, and gently patted Poplar Fruit's chest. She smiled and said, "You look quite handsome when you're holding a saber." Indeed, Poplar Fruit's face lines were more robust. He belonged to the sunny type of man. The short jacket he was wearing today was more retro. Coupled with the two Meow Dao, he looked like a hero in a period film. Although Zhang Yujie's words were bold and hot, she was still an inexperienced girl. She could feel the thick and elastic texture of his hand, which made her cheeks turn bright red. Poplar Fruit was startled by her. He jumped back and looked at her speechlessly. "Big sister, stop fooling around. There's a kid here." Zhang Yujie turned her head and looked at Kiki, who was looking at the two of them in confusion. She chuckled. She turned around and threw herself at Kiki. "By the way, didn't you say you prepared a birthday present for me?" Zhang Yujie suddenly remembered. Yesterday, she was so busy with the new computers that when she came back, she was so tired that she didn't remember such an important thing. Poplar Fruit scratched his head guiltily and said with a dry smile, "Isn't the birthday present given on the birthday?" "That won't do." Zhang Yujie stretched out her hand and said, "I want to check the goods first. If I'm not satisfied, you'll have to make another one." This proud look, no matter how long her hair was, couldn't change. Poplar Fruit had to take out his school bag and take the wooden carving. "You made it yourself?" Zhang Yujie was overjoyed. She took it and looked at the chubby little wooden carving with a smile. From the appearance, it was still far from a real handicraft. However, Poplar Fruit's affirmative answer made her smile so much that she couldn't close her mouth. "Papa made a little pig for Auntie." Kiki also came over from Zhang Yujie's arm. She pouted and said, "It's better than Kiki's." "Little pig." If Kiki didn't say it, Zhang Yujie wouldn't have noticed that this chubby wooden carving really looked like a little fat pig. Zhang Yujie suddenly raised her head and said angrily, "Hey, Poplar Fruit, what do you mean by this? You carved a pig for my birthday?" Poplar Fruit scratched his head and didn't dare to look into Zhang Yujie's eyes. He said with a dry smile, "Yes, aren't you born in the year of the pig?" "You're born in the year of the pig." Zhang Yujie suddenly jumped up. She jumped in front of Poplar Fruit and punched Poplar Fruit with her two pink fists. "I'm born in the year of the rabbit, okay? You didn't carve such a cute little rabbit, but you made a pig. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to, asterisk. Chapter 582. The Land Rover drove on the bumpy mountain road and still maintained a good sense of balance. Poplar Fruit secretly looked at the rearview mirror. Zhang Yujie didn't care about him at all. Instead, she was playing happily with Kiki in the back. In this regard, Poplar Fruit could only smile bitterly. Who asked me to provoke her? It was impossible for Poplar Fruit to remember Zhang Yujie's zodiac wrongly. At that time, what he said to Zhang Yujie in the house was just Poplar Fruit's sophistry. The actual situation was that Poplar Fruit really didn't know how to sculpt a little rabbit. After a few consecutive failures, Poplar Fruit found that the only thing he could sculpt was the little pig that Kiki mentioned. When he sculpted a dog, it looked like a pig. When he sculpted a rabbit, it also looked like a pig. There wasn't much time left. Poplar Fruit finally gave up and sculpted a pig directly. Needless to say, Poplar Fruit's final product was pretty good. At least this little pig was honest and cute. It looked decent. However, Zhang Yujie wasn't satisfied. She grabbed Poplar Fruit and asked him to sculpt a little rabbit for her. Even if it was her birthday, it didn't matter if he made it up in the future. Poplar Fruit had some complaints in his heart. It's okay to ask for too much. If you don't like the little pig, why did you take it back and hide it? This behavior was even worse than Kiki's. Hey, Poplar Fruit, why didn't you mention your friend before? Zhang Yujie came over and patted Poplar Fruit's shoulder. Is it another beauty? When Poplar Fruit came out to pick up Fat Dragon, he didn't want to bring Zhang Yujie because he wanted to give Fat Dragon a heads up. Since Fat Dragon had only seen Fong Bei Bei, he was afraid that Fat Dragon would think too much and say something that would embarrass everyone. But Zhang Yujie insisted on following, and her reason was very good. You can't leave me alone in this scary mountain. Poplar Fruit couldn't refuse. No. Poplar Fruit's head dropped a drop of cold sweat. He shook his head and said, a big fatty is more like it. How can there be a beauty? Then why don't you dare to bring me? There must be a problem. Zhang Yujie nodded suspiciously. Just as the two were joking around, the 2.5-hour drive ended in a short while. The city was more prosperous than Lidong's poor county, and there were fewer Miao people here. What they could hear was familiar Mandarin, which made Zhang Yujie feel like she had returned to the human world. Where is your friend? Zhang Yujie leaned on the car window and looked out with Kiki. In the end, it was difficult to find Fat Dragon's shadow in the crowd. Kiki can't see Uncle Fat either. Kiki shouted. No need to look for him. He's in the nibbling chicken opposite. Poplar Fruit laughed. If they wanted Fat Dragon to stand on the crowded street on such a hot day and wait for people, it would be better to take his life. When they were refueling on the road, Poplar Fruit called him to ask. I'm starting to believe that he's a big fatty. Zhang Yujie said happily. The car stopped temporarily on the side of the road. Poplar Fruit turned around and asked, Do you two want to eat something? I don't eat this junk food. Zhang Yujie waved her hand. Although her life was not very regular, she was still very particular about food. She never ate fast food like fried chicken, French fries, and other fast food. Why don't I buy you 2 sundaes? Kiki likes ice cream. Poplar Fruit laughed. Ice cream. Kiki's eyes lit up. She sat back hard, then held her hands in front of her and said excitedly, Yes, yes, Kiki wants to eat ice cream. Then you two wait for me in the car. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, I'll pick him up and buy you sundaes. After a while, the door of the nibbling chicken was pushed open again. Walking in front was a burly fat man. He was holding a colorful sundae in one hand and kept licking the one in his left hand. Kiki, who had sharp eyes, saw it at a glance. She pointed at the fat man and Zhang Yujie and shouted, Uncle Fat! Uncle Fat! That's right, this big fatty was Fatty Long. He moved his butt away, and Poplar Fruit, who was dragging a suitcase behind him, appeared in Zhang Yujie's sight. That's Papa. Kiki was addicted to playing the game of finding people. She had just warned Fat Dragon in the nibbling chicken restaurant, so that he was mentally prepared. However, when Fat Dragon opened the door of the passenger seat and saw Zhang Yujie sitting behind, his eyes still flashed. He didn't greet Zhang Yujie, and even ignored Kiki, who called him Uncle Fat. He directly slammed the door and ran to the back to find Poplar Fruit, where the luggage was. Gua gua! Fat Dragon shouted excitedly, F*CK, F*CK, the friend you're talking about is a beauty. After all, he was an otaku. Fat Dragon's appearance made Poplar Fruit feel a little embarrassed. He pushed Fat Dragon and said speechlessly, Can you be a little more mature? Look at you drooling, I'm going to be scared by you. Hee gua, don't worry, I have a wife, I won't fight with you. Fat Dragon pulled Poplar Fruit, not letting him rush to open the door, and then whispered in Poplar Fruit's ear, I was wondering why you didn't want to come back on the mountain, so it's because you have a beauty with you. Teske, you're like Lua Do, you're too happy to think about home, right? You're thinking too much, really. Poplar Fruit wanted to slap his head. I'm doing serious business on the mountain, and she just came yesterday. Then you admit it. Fat Dragon laughed. But, what about my daughter's friend in Yongcheng? Did she fly away? Poplar Fruit rolled his eyes and said, Fly away? That's my girlfriend. This is my good friend, a pure boyfriend and girlfriend relationship, do you understand? There's no such thing as a pure boyfriend and girlfriend relationship in this world. I didn't study much, so don't lie to me. Fat Dragon said with a wretched smile, Aya, you're a man, I understand. It doesn't matter how many boats you want to step on, just hurry up and bring one back for our mom to see. Understand your sister. When did you become so close to my mom? Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he pushed him away, opened the door, then turned around and said, Are you getting in or not? If not, I'll leave you here. Fat Dragon then ran to the front passenger seat and got in. Just now, Fat Dragon suddenly closed the door. Zhang Yujie could see the two of them whispering in the car. She didn't need to guess to know that they were talking about her. After Poplar Fruit and them got in the car, Zhang Yujie asked generously, You're the computer expert that Poplar Fruit was talking about, right? Hello, my name is Zhang Yujie. Hello. My name is Long O. Long O stuttered and blushed, even though he was having a good time under the car, when he really faced Zhang Yujie. Poplar Fruit interrupted, What's Long O? You can just call him Fat Dragon. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to, asterisk. Chapter 583. The trip took nearly 6 hours. Although they left after lunch, it was already dark when they returned to Lidong County. It's so late. Are we still going to climb the mountain? Zhang Yujie looked at the dim street lights outside and her heart was in a mess. Whether it was in the city or in the suburbs, as long as there were people, it was brightly lit. It wasn't like Lidong County. In order to save on municipal expenses, the street lights were only turned on 1 or 2 blocks apart. Hoo-hoo, I can't climb. I'm so sleepy. Fat Dragon sat in the car the whole time. He was still panting heavily. He didn't know if he was pretending or not. In any case, he made Kiki giggle. There's no rush to go back. Stay in the county for the night and leave tomorrow morning. Poplar Fruit said. He didn't expect it to be so late. However, since he had picked up someone, he didn't need to rush. So, he changed his mind halfway. He changed his route and went to the county to find Meng Ping to stay the night. Poplar Fruit didn't go to the hotel. Instead, he drove to Meng Ping's house. It wasn't because the two had become close because of the incident at the Public Security Bureau. On the contrary, Meng Ping and Poplar Fruit were still indifferent. After that, they didn't talk on the phone. If it wasn't for Poplar Fruit suddenly wanting to know how Meng Ping was doing, he wouldn't have gone to look for trouble. Because he didn't tell him in advance, Poplar Fruit only called him when he arrived at Meng Ping's house. However, When he heard Meng Ping's muffled voice and seemed unhappy, Poplar Fruit really regretted it. He braced himself and waited downstairs. Poplar Fruit whispered to Fat Dragon and Zhang Yujie so that they wouldn't be scared by Meng Ping's strange logic. Meng Ping was indeed in a bad mood. Seeing him come out from the shadow behind the door with a gloomy face, Kiki was so scared that she buried her head into Zhang Yujie's arms. A small ponytail stuck up between two proud peaks. Fat Dragon secretly swallowed twice. Since there were guests, no matter how unhappy Meng Ping was, he had to accompany them for a while. However, when Poplar Fruit mentioned his request, Meng Ping suddenly slammed the chair and exploded. Meng Ping's anger was not directed at Poplar Fruit. He scolded angrily, "Don't mention this, I'm angry when you mention it. A bunch of mediocre people who will harm the country and the people." Poplar Fruit only understood what had happened after hearing Meng Ping's angry speech. Although Meng Ping wasn't optimistic about Poplar Fruit's long-distance education, his character was still very good. Since he agreed to help, he would remember it in his heart. The next day at work, Meng Ping spent the whole day researching and writing reports. In the end, just as he handed in his report, it was thrown back by the bureau chief in less than 2 minutes. Using the word "thrown" wasn't the right word. After all, he was a deputy bureau chief, not an ordinary staff member. However, the bureau chief's words to him weren't polite at all. He didn't even let Meng Ping sit. He directly pointed at Meng Ping's nose and scolded, "If you have time, you should put more effort into your work. Don't think about taking advantage of others, and don't mix with those dubious people." He scolded Meng Ping, but it didn't convince Meng Ping at all. If it was just that his report was rejected because it wasn't feasible, Meng Ping wouldn't have done that. However, the bureau chief didn't care about Meng Ping's report at all. The words that made Meng Ping very embarrassed were all indirect curses. All of the spearheads were pointed at him and Poplar Fruit, who had a conflict with Liang Huaxing, the second generation of the government official. That's right, the narrow-minded young Master Liang couldn't take it lying down. That night, he went behind his father's back and found the bureau chief of the Education Bureau to help him vent his anger. The bureau chief of the Education Bureau obviously wasn't as far-sighted as Lu Guoliang. He wanted to hug Liang Shengtao's thigh wholeheartedly. With such an opportunity, he naturally wanted to perform well. However, Meng Ping wasn't a soft egg that could be bullied by others. After he was scolded dizzily, he held his report and walked out of the office. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. After he figured it out, his anger suddenly rose. Before he could return to his office, Meng Ping grabbed the report and rushed back to the bureau chief's office. One was the bureau chief who used his power to bully others, and the other was Meng Ping, who never knew what obeying a leader meant. One could imagine how intense the argument between Meng Ping and the bureau chief was. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the sky and the earth were turned upside down. Although Meng Ping was a little stubborn, no one could resist the fact that he had read a lot of books. When Meng Ping scolded people, he quoted from the classics. He was even able to forcefully exaggerate a principle that everyone knew could not be obeyed. At that time, the bureau chief was so angry that his blood vessels were jumping. It wasn't known if he was afraid of losing face or if his blood pressure was really high, but the bureau chief slammed the door and left. He directly asked the driver to send him to the hospital. Meng Ping, who had caused a storm, didn't care at all and returned to his office. However, the bureau chief really couldn't do anything to him. That night, when he went to Deputy County Magistrate Liang to fire this unruly guy, Deputy County Magistrate Liang comforted him and told him not to fight with Meng Ping. He's a stubborn person. Why bother with him? Why bother with him? If it weren't for your precious son, would I need to be angry with him? After the bureau chief heard Deputy County Magistrate Liang's words, he almost went crazy again. However, he couldn't complain in front of Deputy County Magistrate Liang. Therefore, the next day, the bureau chief simply said that he was sick and didn't come to work. Meng Ping didn't know what happened behind the scenes, but after being provoked by the bureau chief, Meng Ping's fighting spirit was aroused. He thought in his heart, "I can't harm those children because of my mistake. No, I have to get this done. Without anyone's support, Meng Ping decided to do it himself. He diligently searched for information and wrote more than 10 pages of new reports with pictures and text. He was prepared to find an opportunity to directly report to the city. If the city couldn't do it, he planned to submit the report to the province. Meng Ping was terrifyingly stubborn, but no one, including him, expected Meng Ping to find a big problem with his investigation. As mentioned earlier, the county still had policies to support the children in the mountainous areas to study, especially teachers. Although it was a private teacher establishment, it was still a legitimate establishment. 1,000 yuan a month. When Meng Ping was searching for information, he inadvertently found out that although the 2 teachers in the mountainous areas hadn't been established, a salary of 2,000 yuan a month was still given out. How is this possible? Meng Ping was shocked. He hurriedly looked at the other 3 poor areas. Each area had 2 to 3 Hmong villages. Similarly, the county also had private teachers' establishment. According to what he knew, there were 6 establishments in these 3 places. Only 1 teacher was on duty. No one was willing to go to the other 5 establishments. However, the Bureau's financial report was full. Someone was taking advantage of the situation. Who was it? Requesting monthly votes, requesting recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 584. Uncle Meng, do you know who it is? After hearing Meng Ping's angry story, Poplar Fruit could not sit still. He suppressed the anger in his heart and asked calmly. The one who understood him the most was Kiki, who was with him day and night. She was originally jumping around the tea table, poking this and that, but after glancing at her father, she ran to Zhang Yujie, climbed on the sofa, and hid behind her. She also whispered to Zhang Yujie, "Papa is going to be angry. Papa is going to spank Kiki's little butt." However, Yanggua's spearhead wasn't pointed at our dear Chi-Chi. It was just that when he heard Meng Ping say that he didn't know who was taking the salary of the teachers, he frowned and asked in a slightly louder voice, scaring the little guy once again, "How could you not know? Uncle Meng, haven't you seen the financial report?" "I only saw the list of expenses," Meng Ping explained. It turned out that in order to understand the financial support for education in the mountain area in detail, Meng Ping had asked for the list of expenses of the Ministry of Education's financial department over the years. The list only showed how much money was spent on which projects, such as the donation of books. Of course, the list didn't list the names of the applicants or beneficiaries, and Meng Ping only saw the salary expenditure that was out of the ordinary. When he saw this, Meng Ping was about to get off work, and he, who was in a mess, did not have time to go to the financial department to find out who was taking the position and taking the salary. Because of this, the more Meng Ping thought about it after he came back, the more upset he felt. Until now, he was so depressed that he could not eat. If Poplar Fruit had not come, he would probably still be thinking about it. "I will go to find out when I go to work tomorrow." Meng Ping gritted his teeth and said, "If I find out that bastard is cheating the country's money, I will definitely not forgive him." "Uncle Meng, you can't investigate." The one who spoke was Zhang Yujie. She had been sitting there without moving before, but when she opened her mouth, her words were shocking. "Why?" Meng Ping angrily looked at Zhang Yujie, as if he was treating her as an accomplice. His gaze was terrifying, as if he wanted to eat her. However, with Zhang Yujie's mental fortitude, how could she be frightened by a small deputy bureau chief in a remote village? Instead, she smiled lightly and said, "I can't directly investigate. At least, I can't ask the people in your finance department." Zhang Yujie explained, to be able to get paid without being found out, there must be someone in the finance department helping with the accounts. If you ask directly, it will be exposed that you know the other party is getting paid without being found out. What are you afraid of? It is to let them know, to let the vermin of their country be afraid. Meng Ping straightened his chest and said in a clear voice, "But you won't be able to find the results you want." Zhang Yujie knew that Meng Ping had a one-track mind because of Poplar Fruit's warning. She didn't care about Meng Ping's heroism at all. Poplar Fruit also advised, Uncle Meng, Yujie is right. If you ask them directly, not only will you not be able to find out what we want to know, but it will also arouse their vigilance. Think about it, the people who are involved in this matter must have a high position in the bureau, or they must have some connections. If you investigate, everyone will know. If they don't tell you and secretly destroy the evidence, then we will never be able to find out who stole the money, right? We also have to prevent them from doing anything desperate. Zhang Yujie had grown up in such a treacherous environment. She had seen a lot of things like this. Sitting there, she was like a military counselor. She only lacked a feather fan to have the domineering aura of strategizing and deciding victory from 1,000 miles away. Uncle Meng, when you quarreled with him previously, you violated the taboo of offending your superiors. I don't know why your bureau chief doesn't dare to punish you, but no matter what your background is, you have affected the interests of those people. They will not let you off easily. Zhang Yujie said seriously. I know what you want to say. Zhang Yujie waved her hand and impatiently interrupted Meng Ping's prepared speech. You can be unafraid, you can be fearless, but you have to think for everyone. You are now shouldering the hopes of hundreds and thousands of children in the mountain area to go to school. Can you bear to destroy all of this because of your impulsiveness? Meng Ping's mouth moved, but he didn't make a sound. He was shocked by Zhang Yujie's words. Let's think of a way to bypass them and find this information? Poplar Fruit suggested. He had a plan. If necessary, he could sneak into the Education Bureau in the middle of the night with his skills like Batman to find the Black Ledger. Just as Poplar Fruit and the others were about to have a heated discussion, Fat Dragon, who didn't have any presence at all, called out weakly, Hey, are you talking about this? When everyone turned to look at him in confusion, Fat Dragon held out the phone he had been fiddling with. The screen was facing upwards for Poplar Fruit and the others to see. Fat Dragon's phone was assembled by himself. At this time, there weren't many phones with large screens. In the end, Fat Dragon made one himself. It had a full 6-inch screen. Although it was a little thick, the configuration inside was far better than any smartphone on the market. It was estimated that no flagship phone in 2 or 3 years would be able to compete with it. However, everyone's attention wasn't on Fat Dragon's phone without a logo. Instead, they saw a form on the screen, list of private teachers subsidized for volunteer teaching in the mountain areas of Lidong County. There was a row of names behind it. How did you get this? Poplar Fruit asked, dumbfounded. When I heard you talking about this, I went into your finance bureau's internal mailbox. I looked for it and found it, Fat Dragon explained concisely. However, the process was far from as simple as he said. What did he mean by going into the internal mailbox? Fat Dragon didn't just hack into the finance bureau's internal system, he also cracked their mailbox password. Moreover, this series of actions had taken him less than 5 minutes. And he did it with King phone. Zhang Yujie was also shocked by Fat Dragon's speed. She gave Fat Dragon a thumbs up and said, I'm starting to believe that you are an expert. It should be this list. Fat Dragon is too awesome. Poplar Fruit excitedly patted Fat Dragon's hairy thigh. Let me see the list. Meng Ping's attention wasn't on the process, but on the result. He reached out for the phone and clumsily swiped the screen to see the list of names. Du Zhongwang. Li Shegui. Meng Ping's eyes lit up and shouted, I know Li Shegui. He is Li Dongshuan's nephew. Li Dongshan was the bureau chief that Meng Ping mentioned earlier. He was so angry that he didn't come to work. Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 585. Rushing around the corner, Poplar Fruit let out a sigh of relief when he saw the scene in front of him. Fortunately, I didn't lose out. Zhang Yujie told Poplar Fruit before that she practiced Taekwondo, and it wasn't a lie. A man fell down in front of her, and there was a conspicuous shoe print on his chest. It was caused by Zhang Yujie's front kick, and the other party didn't completely dodge it. Of course, Zhang Yujie's kung fu was just to scare people. Poplar Fruit knew that with her strength, she could barely handle one-on-one. If she was surrounded by 5 men like now, she wouldn't be able to handle it. Fortunately, Poplar Fruit arrived in time. Just like how Zhang Yujie protected Kiki just now, Poplar Fruit hurriedly came up, reached out and grabbed Zhang Yujie's waist, and easily pulled her behind him. The aisle was narrow, and Poplar Fruit stood there like a man holding back 10,000 men. "It's you!" The exclamation from the opposite side wasn't unfamiliar. Poplar Fruit didn't bother to comfort Zhang Yujie and Kiki. He turned around and said in a deep voice, "It's you." Poplar Fruit had seen these people before. Weren't they the BMW hooligan and his lackeys? In this small county, the only person who had crossed paths or conflicts with Poplar Fruit was Liang Huaxing, the BMW hooligan. Not only did Poplar Fruit know Liang Huaxing, but the people beside him were exactly the same as the one he saw that day. Zhang Yujie poked Poplar Fruit's waist from behind and asked curiously, "You know them?" "I know them. It's really a small world for enemies." Poplar Fruit's lips curled up slightly, and his smile was a little cold. If it was someone else, Poplar Fruit would probably ask Zhang Yujie what happened, but Liang Huaxing? What else could this lecherous hooligan do besides groping women? Seeing Poplar Fruit, Liang Huaxing felt both depressed and happy. What was depressing was that every time he saw Poplar Fruit, it was always the same opening. He would flirt with a beautiful woman, and in the end, one of his men would be defeated. What's more, the beauty he had his eyes on this time was also a troublemaker. Her long legs that could make people lose their minds were full of vigor and power. For a moment, it even scared the men on his side. What made Liang Huaxing even more depressed was that all the rare beauties in Lidong were related to his sworn enemy, Poplar Fruit. Why didn't his father, the county mayor, have such beautiful encounters? His joy was because he couldn't find the Poplar Fruit no matter how hard he tried. In the end, the Poplar Fruit delivered itself to his doorstep. When he heard from Bureau Chief Liu that Poplar Fruit didn't have any background, he regretted not keeping the Poplar Fruit. These days, as long as he thought about the grievances and humiliation that Poplar Fruit had brought to him, he couldn't eat. Just because Liang Shangtao was in Lidong County with one hand, his son couldn't find anyone he wanted. Poplar Fruit wasn't a local, and if there was no news of the Poplar Fruit's car in the county, Liang Huaxing would be at a loss. He thought that Poplar Fruit had slipped back to Guangdong province, and there was no hope for revenge. There's a way to heaven, but you don't want to take it. There's no door to hell, but you just have to come. Liang Huaxing said in a genteel manner, and said proudly, "Do you know how many days I've been looking for you?" Poplar Fruit had a very bad impression of this BMW hooligan. He said coldly, "You can't change your bad habits. Haven't you been beaten enough? I'll beat you up, mother ****. Liang Huaxing felt very embarrassed. He threw the baseball cap on his head. "You're about to die, yet you're still so stubborn. Today, I'll let you know how to write the word, death." Not only did he throw the cap, but he also kicked it fiercely. The baseball cap flew toward Poplar Fruit like a shuttle. However, it was a little inaccurate. Poplar Fruit didn't even have to dodge. The baseball cap hit the glass window next to him. At this time, a person suddenly appeared behind Poplar Fruit and Zhang Yujie. It was one of Liang Huaxing's lackeys. If Poplar Fruit looked back, he would definitely recognize the guy with the baseball bat that day. He was the smartest person under Liang Huaxing. The moment he saw Poplar Fruit, he thought of Poplar Fruit's vigorous skills that day. He knew how powerful Poplar Fruit was. He was worried that they couldn't beat Poplar Fruit in such a narrow space, so he sneaked away and ran in a big circle behind Poplar Fruit. His idea was very clever. It wasn't just a pincer attack. Zhang Yujie and Kiki were behind Poplar Fruit. He didn't believe that Poplar Fruit could beat 5 people by himself with so many scruples. Poplar Fruit actually didn't let down his guard. He knew that if it was just a competition of whose fist was bigger, 5 more people wouldn't be enough for him. However, Liang Huaxing was a genuine local tyrant. Poplar Fruit felt that it was a little unbelievable that he was released from the Public Security Bureau. He didn't think that he had any advantage. He could only say that he was lucky. If there was a second time, like today, Poplar Fruit didn't think that they would have a chance to escape if Liang Huaxing called the police. After all, Liang Huaxing was Liang Shengtao's son. From the information that Fat Dragon found yesterday, Liang Shengtao was definitely the biggest boss in Lidong County. Of the 36 stratagems, escape was the best. Poplar Fruit made up his mind to find a chance to escape the moment they met. Although it was very frustrating, it was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Fighting with the other party was the stupidest choice. Poplar Fruit, who had been paying attention to the escape route, noticed the guy behind them when he appeared. Before the people in front of him could react, Poplar Fruit was the first to react. "Be careful." Poplar Fruit grabbed Zhang Yujie with his left hand. He didn't care if his big hand was pressing on Zhang Yujie's perky butt. His big arm pulled Zhang Yujie's body. Amidst Kiki's screams, Poplar Fruit turned sideways. His left leg almost drew a perfect circle in the narrow space. Bang! With a muffled sound, Poplar Fruit's leg came down from the top. He didn't even have time to react. It directly hit the shoulder of the person behind him. Poplar Fruit even held back. Even so, the person didn't make a sound and fainted on the ground. His shoulder blade seemed to have collapsed. Poplar Fruit was a little nervous. He seemed to have gone too far this time. At this time, Poplar Fruit couldn't help but regret. After dealing with the people behind him, the people in front of him screamed and rushed up. Although their teammates had been cleanly dealt with by Yang Guo, their master's clamor made them charge forward, dauntlessly wave their brooms and stools as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Beat them to death. Don't misunderstand, this wasn't Liang Huaxing's words. Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard the fearless Zhang Yujie shout. Looking at her excited face, people who didn't know her would think that she was playing arcade games. However, this wasn't a game. This was a real-life fight. Poplar Fruit made up his mind. In order to protect the woman and child behind him, he couldn't care less. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 586. Don't look at how Liang Huaxing and his lackeys were waving their weapons and yelling. Yang Guo didn't even put them in her eyes. Especially in this narrow aisle, where only one person could enter at a time, it was too easy to do so. Poplar Fruit even had time to stretch his hand behind him. He pulled Zhang Yujie, who was holding her daughter, and said without turning his head, "Follow me." Before he finished speaking, a black shadow came in. It was the broom in the leader's hand. Poplar Fruit's left hand backhanded, and with a poof sound, the broom hit the wall next to him. Since the other party was being rude and unreasonable, Yang Guo naturally wouldn't be polite. He didn't retreat and instead moved forward. His right hand lightly punched out, and he quickly retracted it. That person only felt something flash in front of his eyes, and his nose seemed to have been inexplicably hit by something heavy. His head was dizzy, and tears and blood flowed out of his nose. His whole body swayed, and he fell to the side. The people behind him were so excited that their eyes were red. They did not notice that their brother in front of them was knocked down so quickly. When they saw a gap, they squeezed in with a strange cry. Before the person arrived, the sound came first. A red plastic stool smashed in front of Yang Guo. He could dodge it, but if Poplar Fruit dodged it, what would happen to the people behind him? Zhang Yujie obediently followed him closely, and Kiki was hiding behind her father because she was scared. In a flash, Poplar Fruit made a decision. He raised his right hand and blocked in front of his head. Under the thin shirt, his muscles were tight, and his arm instantly swelled up, stretching the shirt. Kacha! With a crisp sound, the plastic stool broke from the middle, leaving only the plastic leg in the hands of the dumbfounded guy. Poplar Fruit's eyes were filled with doubt. He really didn't feel any pain. Poplar Fruit had internal energy to protect his body, so his resistance to attacks was quite strong. In addition, the plastic stool was light, so it didn't hurt much. Therefore, this attack was like scratching an itch through one's boots. Other than leaving a gray mark on his clothes, there was no other effect. When he confronted Liang Huaxing at the Public Security Bureau last time, Poplar Fruit did not dare to resist. It was not because he was afraid, but because he was worried that Kiki would be implicated. The other party was a bastard. Who knew if he would bite everywhere like a mad dog? This time, Poplar Fruit wanted to end the battle as quickly as possible, then take Zhang Yujie and Kiki away from this troublesome place. It was absolutely irrational to tangle with a local tyrant in his territory. Therefore, his movements started to become bigger. Without waiting for the other party to attack again, Poplar Fruit snorted. His right hand, which had just been hit by the stool, stretched forward and opened his 5 fingers. Like an eagle catching a chick, he grabbed the head of the person in front of him. The opposite person's face was covered. He kept screaming and waving his hands in the air. But before he could touch Poplar Fruit's hand, a huge force came from Poplar Fruit's hand. He almost had no room to resist, and his whole body involuntarily fell back. However, Poplar Fruit did not let him off so easily. Poplar Fruit strode forward, and the person who had just hit Poplar Fruit with the stool was pushed back by Poplar Fruit's right hand. In order to not let him fall to the ground, Poplar Fruit simply stretched out his left hand and grabbed his arm to support him. Speaking of which, these guys who spent all day drinking had hollowed out their bodies. There was not much meat on their arms, and they were like bamboo poles. Under Poplar Fruit's huge force, they could not move at all. Liang Huaxing and another gangster who were following behind didn't see what happened because their line of sight was blocked. By the time they reacted, their brother was being carried over by Yang Guo like a sandbag. It was as if they had been hit by a high-speed bus. Liang Huaxing and his followers fell to the ground one after another like dominoes. Aya. Don't push. Liang Huaxing made a mistake. Listening to his scream, people who did not understand him would think that he was squeezing on a bus. Big idiot, King pressed on my leg. Ouch, it hurts. Liang Huaxing fell to the ground and was pinned down by his own people. It was not easy for him to get some space to breathe. The shame in his heart soared, and he painfully cursed again. Don't go if you have the guts. Liang Huaxing used one hand to support the follower who fell on top of him, and used the other hand to point at Poplar Fruit who went around them, and shouted in exasperation. So what if I go? Are you going to stop me? Zhang Yujie's temper rose. When she was young in Beijing, she was also a domineering person. She was the one who bullied others. How could others shout in front of her? With Yang Guo backing her up, even if she was facing so many men in a strange place, she was not afraid at all. Instead, she bit her lower lip and rushed up with a face full of excitement. With a pa sound, she gave Liang Huaxing a kick. Ouch! Zhang Yujie's kick just happened to land on Liang Huaxing's outstretched index finger. Suddenly, Liang Huaxing felt that his finger was about to be broken. The intense pain made him wail again. Li Dong's #1 young master's face was completely lost. When he came back to his senses, Poplar Fruit and the others had already disappeared. At this time, his followers slowly recovered from Poplar Fruit's attack. Ouch! The guy who usually only knew how to bully others was too weak to even stand up to a gust of wind. Who told you to buy a watch? Liang Huaxing pushed the one on top of him. Only then did that person quickly stop screaming and pull his master up. Until everyone stood up, the guy who was just a meat cushion for Liang Huaxing and the others did not move. With 2 people on top of him, it was enough for him. He was now very weak, and did not react for a long time. Mother *K, go after him. Why are you still standing here foolishly? Liang Huaxing angrily jumped up and slapped the follower who just pulled him up. In the end, he touched his finger that was just dislocated by Zhang Yujie's kick, causing him to grimace in pain. After being slapped by Liang Huaxing, those lackeys seemed to have woken up from a dream and hurriedly rushed out one by one. Too handsome. Zhang Yujie was pulled out by Poplar Fruit. At this time, Kiki was already in Poplar Fruit's embrace. Zhang Yujie excitedly patted Poplar Fruit's shoulder. Poplar Fruit was speechless as he looked at this violent woman. Perhaps this was her real personality? But when Poplar Fruit saw Kiki's expression, his heart felt awkward. Auntie is so powerful. Kiki waved her small fist. The frightened expression she had when she was inside had been swept away. Her eyes were shining with a fervent light. She defeated Grey Wolf. Hey, it was obviously your dad who defeated him. She only added a kick. Poplar Fruit was helpless, but he did not want to argue about this. Instead, he was worried about Kiki's current state. After being with Zhang Yujie for a long time, would Kiki become as bad as her? Stop talking, let's go quickly. Poplar Fruit pulled Zhang Yujie and quickened his pace. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to, asterisk. Chapter 587. Thump, thump, thump. Zhang Yujie felt that her heart was about to jump out of her chest. She was not afraid, but she was too excited. Poplar Fruit was running with her. The warm touch on her palm told Zhang Yujie that all of this was real. However, countless classic scenes from movies still popped up in her mind. The most exciting one was the third movie that was released last year, where Sam was running with Callie in the ruins of a city destroyed by aliens. If the surrounding shop owners knew that Zhang Yujie had silently imagined the shop that they relied on to make a living as a ruin with black smoke curling up, would they have a feeling of wanting to die? Poplar Fruit ran with Zhang Yujie to the place where the car was parked. He inadvertently looked back, and his eyes swept past Zhang Yujie's obsessed eyes and fell on the corner where they had just escaped. There was a commotion. A cardboard box on the ground was kicked away, and several figures emerged from it. It was Liang Huaxing's followers. Ouch! Only a crashing sound could be heard. The person in the lead couldn't stop his feet and accidentally bumped into a shelf. The goods on the shelf fell to the ground. Curses, complaints, and urging sounds could be heard for a while. It was a group of motley crew after all. Poplar Fruit ridiculed them in his heart, but he dared not let his guard down. He pulled Zhang Yujie and ran all the way. In the blink of an eye, they were more than 100 meters away from those guys, and this was with Zhang Yujie slightly holding them back. What the F***ck are you talking about? Liang Huaxing scolded and pushed his followers who were quarreling with the shop owners. He shouted, "Go after them! Are you stupid?" He also glared at the indomitable shop owners and scolded, "Just you wait. If they run away, I'll ask my dad to arrest all of you." At this time, Poplar Fruit and the others had rushed to their Land Rover. "Give me Kiki, give me Kiki." Zhang Yujie's mind was still relatively clear. She grabbed Poplar Fruit, who was about to run to the driver's seat with Kiki in his arms. "What's wrong? What happened?" Fat Dragon was sleeping in the front passenger seat. When he saw Poplar Fruit hurriedly open the door and get in the car, he asked curiously. Poplar Fruit ignored him. Instead, he put on his seatbelt and fumbled for his car keys. Zhang Yujie also got into the car with Kiki in her arms. She slammed the door shut, then came up from the back seat, patted Fat Dragon on the shoulder, and said, "Don't ask. Hurry up and put on your seatbelt. We're leaving. You put on your seatbelt too." Poplar Fruit took the time to turn his head and look at Zhang Yujie. He said loudly, "Let's go, let's go." In Fat Dragon's puzzled eyes, Poplar Fruit started the Land Rover and slowly drove out of the parking space. At this time, the four people just jumped out of the shopping mall in embarrassment. They looked around. Liang Huaxing had the worst temper. He kicked a small stone and shouted, "Where are they? Where did the people from Masquerade go?" "Boss, boss." The smartest follower's eyes lit up. He pointed at Poplar Fruit's car and shouted, "Look at that car! That Land Rover!" Liang Huaxing looked over subconsciously. He was confused for a while. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he shouted, "Damn you! Car, their car! Mother ***, go after them, no, block them." Seeing that Poplar Fruit's car was about to reach the road, Liang Huaxing angrily pushed his followers. But his followers looked at each other and didn't dare to go up. Using his mortal body, flesh and blood, to block such a huge Land Rover? Boss, are you King kidding me? Although it was possible that Poplar Fruit didn't dare to hit someone to death, it couldn't be ruled out. The Land Rover's steel behemoth-like body gave people a lot of pressure just by looking at it. Boss, let's quickly chase after them. That follower was still smart. He stretched out his hand and said, "Chase, quickly chase after them." Liang Huaxing was blinded by hatred at this time. He didn't care about his BMW. He threw the key and shouted fiercely. Back in Poplar Fruit's car, they drove out before being blocked. Poplar Fruit could finally breathe a sigh of relief. At this time, Fat Dragon finally seized the opportunity to ask, "Fruit, what's going on? Why do we have to run? Do you remember that young Master Liang? We talked about it last night." Poplar Fruit concentrated on driving and then said without turning his head, "I remember, it's that young master. His father has the power to control everything here." Fat Dragon said disdainfully. "Huh?" Fat Dragon asked in confusion, "Did you have a conflict with him again? Is this world so small that you can bump into him when you're shopping?" "He almost touched Yujie." Poplar Fruit said concisely, "So we had a fight." "Papa is the best," Kiki shouted in admiration from behind. "Kiki, don't imitate him." Poplar Fruit unhappily reprimanded in a deep voice, "It's not good to fight, especially for girls, you have to." Before Poplar Fruit finished his words, Zhang Yujie, who had been looking back, exclaimed, "They're catching up, they're catching up." "What?" Poplar Fruit, who thought he got rid of them, was shocked. He looked in the rearview mirror and saw a very flashy white BMW suddenly appear in the sparse traffic behind them. "Stop right there. If I catch you, you're King dead." The sunroof of the BMW was opened and Liang Huaxing's ugly and annoying face peeked out. Unfortunately, because it wasn't high enough, Liang Huaxing had to use one hand to hold on to the edge of the sunroof while the other hand reached out and waved. What a haunting ghost. Poplar Fruit's face was gloomy. He said seriously, "Yujie, sit tight with Kiki." As soon as he finished speaking, Poplar Fruit stepped on the gas pedal. The Land Rover, which had a lot of horsepower, suddenly sped up and the car roared out. Lidong was a small county town, unlike Yongcheng, where even 3 or 4 lanes were congested. There weren't many people who could afford to buy a car here. Even though there were only 2 lanes, there were only a few cars in front of them. It was almost unobstructed. Oh! Zhang Yujie leaned against the seat due to inertia. Not only was she not afraid, she held onto Kiki with one hand and grabbed the door handle with the other. She was so excited that she screamed. Was this a change of tape? Was it the same Fast and Furious 5 that was released last year? This rush of pleasure made one's scalp tingle. Fat Dragon, who was sitting in the front, showed the correct reaction of an otaku. He screamed in fear. He liked to race in games, but in real life, he broke out in a cold sweat for his life. Kiki's reaction was very much in line with Poplar Fruit's prediction. The little girl liked to experience extreme speed the most. She didn't know what to be afraid of. Looking at the scenery outside the window, she screamed and laughed. Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. Greater than over equal to, asterisk. Chapter 588. Old man, did you see a car drive by? Liang Huaxing rubbed his nose and stepped on the armrest of Xiong Duxiu's recliner as he lowered his head and asked casually. It's a very big car. It's a Land Rover. When it drives, the sound is like thunder. The clever rascal quickly added. Damn it! Liang Huaxing slapped him on the neck, causing him to stumble forward as he shouted in dissatisfaction, Why are you interrupting? Do you think I don't know? Liang Huaxing was still proudly teaching his follower a lesson. His foot was still on Xiong Duxiu's recliner. Bang! The sound of a palm hitting the table suddenly came from inside the store. Where did this horn come from? How dare you be so presumptuous here? The voice was very deep, causing Liang Huaxing's eardrums to buzz. What followed was the rustling sound of chairs being dragged and the clanging sound of ironware colliding. Liang Huaxing was confused. He turned his head to look at the entrance of the store and saw the curtain at the door being pulled open. 3 men with biceps as thick as Liang Huaxing's thigh walked out in a single file, carrying large sabers. This group of hedonistic hooligans who were used to riding roughshod over others had never seen such a scene other than in movies. The muscles on the 3 Miao people who were wearing headscarves were obviously not to be trifled with. The large sabers they were carrying were polished until they were shiny. For a moment, their shocked expressions were reflected on the surface of the sabers. Captain Wu, who was standing at the back, saw this and kept complaining in his heart. "I say, young Master Liang, why are you so blind? You even dare to provoke them?" The store was located in the middle of nowhere on the mountain road. There was not even a single car passing by. Do you think this kind of boss is a normal person doing business? That's right, the store did exist in the form of a scam. The customers were the tourists passing by. Although they would not forcefully kidnap you, if you wanted to rest and buy something to eat, you would have to face 100 yuan worth of mineral water and 500 yuan worth of instant noodles. Don't say that you don't want to buy after asking the price. Since you asked, you should pay up obediently. Otherwise, the swords of the Miao people who stayed in the store all day were not a joke. Poplar Fruit should be happy. He had always been treated with hospitality. He had never seen the real side of this scam. Don't do it, don't do it. Captain Wu had no choice. He could only bite the bullet and rush up, blocking in front of Liang Huaxing, and said with a smile, "It's all a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding." Misunderstanding? You put your foot on my head and you call that a misunderstanding? Xiong Duxiu, who was lying on the recliner, suddenly said this. At this time, the Miao man with a knife, he pointed his knife at Liang Huaxing and shouted, "UF** King want to die?" That foot, show me your foot. His voice carried a strong smell of gunpowder, as if he wanted to remove one of Liang Huaxing's thighs. Although both sides were speaking Miao with different accents, most of the pronunciation was still interchangeable. The knife was like a cold star. It shook Liang Huaxing to the core. He grabbed Captain Wu, who was blocking in front of him, as if he was using Captain Wu as a shield, but he was still scared and kept retreating. "Captain Wu, gun, gun." Liang Huaxing's trembling voice sprayed all over Captain Wu's face. Captain Wu was cursing in his heart. "UF** cur, even if you want to die, don't drag me down with you." However, Captain Wu did not have any thoughts about the gun Liang Huaxing mentioned. Even if he was the captain of the Public Security Bureau's traffic brigade, he could not casually carry a strictly controlled gun with him. Coming out to support young Master Liang was a private matter. If he used a gun because of private matters, no one would be able to save him. Not to mention that he did not bring a gun when he left today. Even if Captain Wu brought a gun, he would not dare to use it. The Miao people were very vengeful. If he killed or injured any of them, he would not be able to leave this mountain today. No gun, no gun. Captain Wu waved his hand and said with a bitter smile, "Young Master Liang, I think we should." Hearing about guns, the Miao people with knives paused. It was not that they were afraid of these guys in tiger skin, it was just that no one wanted to be wrongly killed by a gun without eyes. But, no gun? Hee, the Miao people were no longer afraid at this moment. They approached step by step, while Liang Huaxing and the rest were scared and retreated step by step. The Miao people, including Xiong Jijiu who rushed over, were only 4 people, while Liang Huaxing and the rest were almost 3 times their number. Even so, Liang Huaxing and the rest did not dare to move. Of course, there were only a few people in front. The police who followed behind did not have the prestige of a police officer at all. They all stayed far away and almost hid back in the car. Wait. Finally, Liang Huaxing, who felt superior in his heart, suddenly summoned the courage to call out, "Do you know who my father is?" Liang Huaxing did not notice that they were all looking at him like he was an idiot. He said proudly, "Let me tell you, my father is Liang Shangtao, the county magistrate who is in charge of you. Do you know that? If you don't put down your knives, I'll call someone to arrest all of you in minutes." Captain Wu wanted to cry but had no tears. He wailed in his heart, "My young master, you're still showing off here? Do you think others will be afraid of you? If they can arrest us, do you think we're just standing here for decoration? Get out." Although Xiong Jizhou was the youngest of the 4 strong men, he stood in front with his knife, looked at Liang Huaxing coldly, and spat out a word. Liang Huaxing felt so wrong today that he wanted to die. He was beaten for flirting with a beauty, he could not beat Poplar Fruit in a fight, he could not even touch the exhaust of a car when he was chasing someone, and then he was chased out of this small shop that looked easy to bully with a knife. What was going on today? Why was he always so unlucky? Hey, can you be reasonable? Liang Huaxing's face turned red as he stammered, "I only asked one question. Do you have to be so aggressive?" Oh my God! It was always him who bullied others, but today Liang Huaxing actually complained about being wronged. The followers next to him all looked at Liang Huaxing, who was like a wronged little wife, with a stunned face. They saw him sniffle, and his eyes were a little red as he cried, "Who are you? What enmity do I have with you? It's fine if you don't want to say it, but you still want to bully people? Let's go, let's go." Liang Huaxing pretended to be disdainful and shouted, "Only ghosts want to waste time in this damn place. Captain Wu, do you know the way? Let's go to that damn Xiong village. Damn it, I think that kid must have run there. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to, asterisk." Chapter 589. As soon as Liang Huaxing finished speaking, a voice came from behind him, "Really? Is Xiong village a place you can go as you please?" He turned around and saw that 3 men in Miao Miao clothes had appeared behind him. They were also expressionless and had the same muscular build. The only difference was that these men who came down from the mountain path did not carry a machete. Instead, they carried 2 long sabers on their backs. The people who came were Xiong Jishe and his 2 brothers from the stronghold. Xiong Kehu said that he didn't care, but he was still worried about Yang Gua and the others. After notifying Xiong Jizhou and the others, he sent Xiong Jishe over. Xiong Jishe and his men rushed down the mountain and met Liang Huaxing and his men who were about to turn around and go up the mountain. He did not see Poplar Fruit, but from their words, Xiong Jishe understood that they were the enemies who wanted to cause trouble for Poplar Fruit. Was he being sandwiched? Liang Huaxing felt that his heart was about to jump out of his throat. Although there were only 3 newcomers, they gave Liang Huaxing and his men more pressure than the 4 strong men behind them. "It's you. It's you. That guy with the surname Xiong." Liang Huaxing's eyes were a little dizzy, but he still recognized Xiong Jishe. However, he felt that Xiong Jishe was majestic today. After taking the machetes from his back, he looked down at them condescendingly, like an ancient general. "So it's you." When Liang Huaxing turned his head, Xiong Jishe also recognized the guy who had been clamoring. His 2 blades clashed against each other, and the sound of steel clashing resounded through the mountain forest, scaring Liang Huaxing into retreating again and again. However, there were also 4 strong men from the Miao tribe behind them. Liang Huaxing found that he could neither advance nor retreat. He was so embarrassed that his face turned red. You. Liang Huaxing pointed at the 2 groups of people with trembling fingers. A man from the Miao tribe behind Xiong Jiliu smiled evilly and said, "I forgot to mention that our surname is also Xiong. Are you looking down on us Miao people? Are you looking down on Xiong people? All of you, collude with each other. That brat must be up there." How could Liang Huaxing not understand at this time? It was clear that they were not allowed to come into contact with the Poplar Fruit. However, even if he knew that Poplar Fruit and the rest were in Xiong village, what could he do? Now that Liang Huaxing was stuck in this mountain, even if he was a dragon, he would still have to coil up. Just you wait. In the end, Liang Huaxing, who could not bear to leave this person behind, finally gave in under Captain Wu's persuasion. He got into the car and poked his head out to point at the Miao men who were calmly standing in the distance with swords in their hands. He yelled, Just you wait. I don't believe that you won't leave the mountain for your entire life. Drive. What the hell are you doing? Are you stupid? In the midst of the clamor and cursing, several cars drove away from the people's sight. Xiong Jishe and the others didn't take Liang Huaxing's words to heart. They looked at each other and smiled. They were all relatives, so they put down their swords and started chatting. This time, Liang Huaxing had lost all his face. After he went back, he would definitely take more crazy revenge. It was not that Xiong Jishe and the others didn't understand, but they were not worried at all. As Liang Huaxing said, I don't believe that you won't leave the mountain for your entire life. For these Miao people, they didn't have many opportunities to go down the mountain. As long as they stayed on the mountain, Liang Huaxing couldn't do anything to them even if his father was the mayor. Such a threat was really not painful at all. Of course, for Poplar Fruit and the rest, it was another matter. Xiong Jishe called Poplar Fruit and the rest back from their hiding place and warned them seriously, you guys be careful. Don't go to the county in the near future. I think so too. Do you think that those young masters will set up roadblocks in front of us? Fat Dragon said in fear. Look at your courage. Zhang Yujie laughed. She patted Fat Dragon's shoulder and said, Fatty, what are you afraid of? We'll deal with whatever comes our way. Are you worried that we can't deal with these little guys? She was a little depressed from being hunted down today. She made up her mind to ask her family after going up the mountain. As long as her father was willing to help, it would be as easy as killing an ant to deal with a county magistrate in a poor place. Poplar Fruit didn't want to ask for help. He thought that Zhang Yujie had the same idea as him. He smiled and said, That's right, Fat Dragon. Hurry up and find more evidence. Let's wrestle with these big worms. I don't believe that no one can deal with them. Brother Yang, let's go up the mountain. Master can't wait to see you. Xiong Jishe came over to help Yang Guo share some of the burden, and honestly said. His current simple and honest expression was completely different from his previous majestic appearance. When they went up the mountain, Kiki was the happiest and proudest one. Zhang Yujie was a girl, and Fat Dragon was a big fat man. In order to take care of them, Poplar Fruit not only carried everything with Xiong Jishe, but also didn't let Zhang Yujie hold Kiki. Poplar Fruit had something in his hands, so he couldn't free his hands to hold his daughter. He could only let Kiki sit on his neck. This time, Kiki grew taller. Daddy was 187 meters tall, and with the addition of his shoes, Chi-Chi was almost 19 meters tall with him in her arms. Sitting up high, she could see far away. The little fellow found that her field of vision had suddenly widened. The distant mountain peaks, the clouds, and the nearby vines and birds seemed to be within reach. Ha ha! The bell-like laughter resounded through the mountain forest, like a spring breeze brushing through people's hearts. The anger accumulated during the confrontation with Liang Huaxing seemed to have disappeared. Papa, I want this, I want this. Suddenly, Kiki patted her father's head and cried. However, this time, she didn't point to the interesting top, but to the simple and unadorned earth. Sit tight, or your ass will break into 2 pieces when you fall. Poplar Fruit threatened. He looked in the direction of Kiki's finger and saw several blue-purple flowers in the bushes by the roadside. The color of the flowers was a little rich, but because of the blue-purple color, even if it was rich, it was noble enough to make people fall in love with it. The flowers were pentagonal, with fine fluff on them. The cream-white stamen in the middle was more like a 5-pointed star. Its cream-white color was in sharp contrast with the thick purple petals. This is Platycodon. Xiong Jishe walked up, squatted down, picked one flower and gave it to Kiki, and then explained with a smile. Because it was Miao language, Poplar Fruit asked a few more questions before he understood the word Platycodon. Platycodon. Zhang Yujie listened to Poplar Fruit's translation and cried with her eyes shining. Not that one. Poplar Fruit understood that Zhang Yujie thought of the Platycodon in Inuyasha at a glance. However, it seemed that they had the same effect in different ways. The gentle, beautiful, and often melancholy, which was also wearing a plain white blouse with a dazzling red kimono skirt. Her gentleness and kindness, her intelligence and calmness, her strength and melancholy were the most heart-wrenching scenery in that anime. Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 590. Huff huff, huff huff. Fat Dragon's panting was as heavy as an old bellows. His breath with bad breath constantly sprayed onto Poplar Fruit's face. Poplar Fruit really wanted to slap him down the mountain. Climbing a mountain was no different from a mountain of knives and a sea of fire for a fat man. Fat Dragon could not even walk for 10 minutes. Later on, he had to stop and rest, which made Poplar Fruit and the rest unable to walk the distance that would normally take them 5 minutes after 20 minutes. Looking at the situation, they would not be able to reach Xiong village even if they walked until nightfall. Poplar Fruit could only pass Kiki to Zhang Yujie while he carried Fat Dragon on his back. He carried him. That's right, Poplar Fruit actually ignored everyone's objections and carried Fat Dragon, who was definitely over 100 kilograms. When Poplar Fruit straightened up, his shoes were almost sunk into the mud. Fat Dragon's waist was almost twice as thick as Poplar Fruit's. Everyone was scared out of their wits. They were all sweating for Poplar Fruit, worried that Fat Dragon would crush the skinny Poplar Fruit. Over 100 kilograms. Was it very heavy? For Poplar Fruit, it was not considered easy, but it was not unbearable either. When Fat Dragon first climbed up, he was still a little unaccustomed to standing, but after he got used to it, he felt that he still had some strength left. Let's go. Poplar Fruit turned his head and greeted the people who were staring at him in a daze with a smile. Is it really that incredible? Look at your jaws, they're about to fall off. Zhang Yujie came up with an intoxicated look on her face. She reached out and pinched Poplar Fruit's strong triceps. She said exaggeratedly, "Teske, Poplar Fruit, I didn't expect you to be so muscular despite being so skinny." Although he knew that Zhang Yujie's expression was fake, Poplar Fruit still felt very uncomfortable when she touched him in front of so many people. He quickly carried Fat Dragon and strode forward as if the 100-kilogram fat man was nothing more than a school bag on his back. It was not easy to get back to Xiong village. Fat Dragon had been lying on Poplar Fruit's back the whole time. Although it was a little bumpy, he had enough rest and became the most energetic after getting down. Of course, other than the pervert Poplar Fruit. It's just like a movie. All that's missing is the bandits. Fat Dragon walked around the wooden gate twice and said excitedly, "If it were me, I would definitely arrange a team of archers here. It's high and low, easy to defend and hard to attack. Do you think you're playing Age of Empires?" Poplar Fruit laughed. "If I knew that you had enough rest, I would have let you climb up on your own after crossing the suspension bridge. Don't, Fruit, it's not like you don't know that I'm weak." Fat Dragon hurried over and said flatteringly. Even Zhang Yujie had a vomiting reaction when she heard such words from that figure. Poplar Fruit was a frequent visitor. Along the way, many Miao women greeted him. Today, the children were quite well behaved. They did not swarm over like last time. They just followed Poplar Fruit from a distance. They pointed at Fat Dragon and were a little scared and curious. It seemed that they had never seen such a fat person before. "Where did you put the computer?" Fat Dragon rubbed his itchy fingers and asked excitedly. His biggest interest in life was computers. He felt that as long as he had a computer connected to the internet, he would have no regrets in his life. This time, Poplar Fruit was able to summon him all the way here. Other than his good relationship with Poplar Fruit, the most important reason was probably the new computer from the Comet system. "Put it at the school. Let's put it there first before we go over." Poplar Fruit pointed at a small house in the north of Miao village and said, "Put what?" "Take it directly." Fat Dragon couldn't hold back anymore. He threw down these words and rushed to the school like a wisp of smoke. Poplar Fruit and the others looked at each other helplessly and smiled bitterly. They really didn't know why this big fat man was so clumsy usually, but when it came to computers, he became like a strong athlete. Poplar Fruit had no choice but to take out Fat Dragon's luggage and put it at the door of Xiongji's house. Then, he brought his daughter and Zhang Yujie over. "Sir, I was wrong, sir. Murder. Help." Before they got close, they heard Fat Dragon scream. Then, Poplar Fruit saw a fat figure running out of the school's door. When Fat Dragon saw Poplar Fruit, it was as if he saw his savior. He ran over with snot and tears. Poplar Fruit saw that one of his trousers had a long cut, but it was only his trousers. He wasn't hurt. "Master, you're right." Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw Xiongkahu walk out from behind Fat Dragon with a Meowdow in his hand. Poplar Fruit had already guessed the plot. Fat Dragon must have only cared about the computer. After he rushed into the school, he directly rushed to the computer on the table. The computer was Xiongkahu's lifeblood. He would rather stay here and guard it. Even if Poplar Fruit was in trouble, he would ignore it. How could he tolerate an inexplicable person's violation of it? That was the truth. Xiongkahu pulled out his Meowdow with a clang. It cut through the air like moonlight and directly slashed at Fat Dragon's crotch. Xiongkahu's trousers were cut. Xiongkahu had a sense of propriety and controlled his strength perfectly. However, Fat Dragon didn't think so. He felt a chill in his crotch. He almost lost his Fat Dragon. After that, Fat Dragon ran out in fright and cried to Poplar Fruit. "That's my master. Who told you to be so reckless?" Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said to Fat Dragon. Then, he explained to him and Xiongkahu. "Him." Xiongkahu snorted. He didn't put away the Meowdow in his hand. He intentionally pointed at Fat Dragon, making Fat Dragon's eyelids twitch. "One look and I can tell that he's a lazy person. Poplar Fruit, don't try to trick me with this. Would an expert be like this?" "Hey, old man, you have to be responsible for what you say." Fat Dragon jumped out in dissatisfaction. When it came to his proudest computer skills, he even forgot about the experience of being scared out of his wits. He faced Xiongkahu's Meowdow head-on. "What do you mean I'm not an expert? Then why don't you find one for me to see? Let's see who's better." "Both of you, stop arguing." Poplar Fruit quickly mediated between the two. "Master, you don't understand computers. There are many experts like him. They stay at home every day. Fat Dragon, you should stop talking. This is my master. He's your elder. Even so, he shouldn't be so annoying." Fat Dragon said unhappily. However, he only mumbled. He was afraid of Poplar Fruit's anger. As for Xiongkahu, he snorted coldly and put away his Meowdow. However, his face still showed disdain and disbelief. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to asterisk. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.